Hello, it's the Redeye stream number 64. I've actually been on YouTube as of today for 1 year. They haven't kicked me off. I haven't really been called a bigot too much. I say it's a pretty successful year. What do you guys think?
Racist.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think you're a bigot.
Well, thanks. You know, somebody has to do it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Multiple people.
yeah. Yeah, a bunch of assholes I always let on the show. I mean, hey, guys.
Gosh.
So the first story I have here, it's a local story from here in Lane County, Oregon. So South Eugene High School wants to change its mascot. Their mascot right now is the Axeman, and it has been the Axeman for almost 90 years. But they got together a petition, which was signed by hundreds of students, parents, teachers, coaches, and members of the community. And they mostly asked for the name to be changed because it's too gender specific. It doesn't represent the entire student body. What say you guys? Is Axeman like too gender specific? Is it a bad mascot name? Because I really don't see the problem with it. I mean, what do they want to be called? The South Eugene gender fluids? I mean, I don't know. It's ridiculous to me.
I like the word Axeman.
What should their mascot be? I think it should be small order of Cajun fries from Popeyes. I think that's
How about the Shiners?
The Shiners. I actually like that name. It reminds me of moonshining. But yeah, it's like, okay, I can kind of understand wanting to change the mascot for the Cleveland Indians. All right, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Atlanta Braves. I don't agree with it, but I can see their argument. I can entertain the argument. But really, the Axeman, because it's gender specific, fuck you.
There's no difference between those arguments and this argument, which is some people are butthurt, so therefore I'm going to sit up there and protest. That's all you're dealing with. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, you can come back and say that the caricature of the Cleveland Indians, you can say that caricature is more offensive than not. Okay, you can say that, but you can also look at it as it's a caricature. It's nothing negative per se. It's just a somebody smiling, all right, with feathers in their hair. Now, if you take offense to that, it's somebody that's going to take offense to anything anyway. They're looking to be offended. There really isn't any difference, my opinion.
Well, yeah, and it's like, okay, the high school I went to, it was the Junction City Tigers. The Tigers was their mascot. I mean, nobody in that student body identifies as a fucking tiger, okay? I mean, Axeman is the same thing. It's like, I don't know. When you say Axeman, I don't necessarily think of a man. I somebody with an axe, fucking running at you. Like, there was Amazonian women that probably had axes and killed people, right?
Sure.
Would they be considered an axeman, or are you going to say axe woman?
Amazonians were a real race that ran around with women axes. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the documentary. It was called Cena.
Yeah.
yeah, right. That's a great documentary. Absolutely. And did you see the other documentary, Hercules? That it spun off of. It was a stupid example, but seriously, it's a stupid argument. They've had the name for almost 100 years.
There's more.
Leave it alone.
It's more than just that, though. They're trying to attack history. You have a history of logging in that area. They're trying to erase that because they think logging is wrong. These are the same people that think logging is wrong. That's where they get this, we have hundreds of people. So what? And next. That's how this should be handled. There comes a point of leadership where you don't do what the crowd says. You stand on your own. and it's when the mousy people, the loudest people stand up. Courage is standing up to the loudest people and saying no. One of the things, if you take a look at the history of the Old West, the lawman that got respected were the lawmen that stood up in front of a lynch mob and said, no, this guy's going to jail. He's going to go through justice. Why? Because he himself is putting himself out there, and the courage it takes to stand against the crowd who's howling for blood. This is really no different, aside from the fact they're not actually going to lynch people, or at least not yet. They just haven't been whipped into that kind of frenzy yet.
Yeah, no, and I like that that example, because when you think of Wyatt Earp, you remember Wyatt Earp because of not only the OK Corral and shit, but before that in Dodge City, when he would he had once stood up against a lynch mob. He had, stood up for a lot of things. That's why you remember him. You don't remember the lawman that, I don't know, that just let the lynch mob take the guy with him. You know what I mean? You know, their names don't go down in history, but you remember Wyatt fucking Earp, right?
Exactly. So the idea that somehow you should just let these kind of people just roll over you is just ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Personally, I think it's part of the course. It's very similar to the whole Washington Redskins and the Louisiana Chiefs, or I don't know. I don't follow hockey, but I think it's very much the same principle. But I think in reality, it's up to the school's faculty if they really do want to change it. You said they have a history of logging, so I mean, why not just change it to like the pines or the trees? I don't know. Change it to something neutral, I suppose, if you absolutely have to.
Chainsaws? Will that work?
Yes.
Timberwolves. But then their basketball team will suck, so we don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Any other thoughts on changing the mascot name? We can move on.
Non-binary vaginas.
The non-binary. Well,
Oh boy.
Sure. Yeah, let's go with that.
Or even
and
better,
there's also
I've got wood.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think.
the South. No, the South Eugene Woodies. That'll work.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
What's with old wood all of a sudden?
Hello.
But
It
But
came
there
from the
is
lumberjacks.
there is a good story out of Oregon. They're actually saying, since this tax cut is getting passed, that nobody should pay their federal or pay their land taxes or property taxes until after they figure out how much you're going to owe. They actually came out and said that today in the paper. So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, my parents went down to the town hall and they only paid, I think, 1/4 in advance instead of a full year, or however it is, due to the changes. I know they're not paying a full year. I think they only did 1/4 in advance due to the changes.
Well, yeah, and what's pretty insane is Oregon has some of the highest property taxes in the country.
So does
that's
Dirty Jersey. So yeah, it's a big deal. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, but that's absolutely right. It is a big deal. That's a lot of income that the state's not going to have ahead of time.
Yes and no. I mean, the idea isn't about property taxes. The way the tax code reads is that you can no longer deduct mortgage past $750,000 for a house. Okay, so the idea that the states are going to lose a ton of revenue. I mean, obviously, if you're not collecting taxes during that time frame, yeah. But is it really? I mean, how many houses are over 750,000?
Yeah.
It depends upon the region. All right, Silicon Valley, those people are screwed. Okay, but let's be honest. In Oregon, how much of that tax base is really going to be affected by the mortgaging? I doubt that a large percentage.
I pay property taxes. I own my home, so I'm affected.
Is your home worth over over $750 million?
No, it's not. Not
Or
at all. Not even
not
close.
$750,000. I'm sorry.
Not even close. But
Then you can then the changes to the tax code don't affect you at all.
It just closes out the estate tax, I think. Or did
The
they
estate
leave that
tax-
in there?
The estate tax is still in there, although it's changed. All right, they did change the
So then,
amounts.
so then, if I call my house that's just above $750,000 in estate, does that mean I get preferential tax treatment even though the building is still the same?
Are you on a mortgage?
Answer each way, yes or no.
Well, if you own it, then no, it's not going to make any effect. If it's on a mortgage, then you are going to be affected because it's considered you can only deduct up to $750,000 property for mortgage purposes. So you can't deduct that from your taxes.
Oh, no. I don't think I asked my question correctly. What if I somehow went to the government and said, my house is an estate. I'm all of a sudden, I have lots of money. Can I call my house an estate? How would that work?
That wouldn't
Is it-
change anything. It has no. That's not going to have any effect. The estate tax that they're talking about is basically inheritance tax when you die.
Oh, an inheritance. Okay, when you die. Okay, never mind then.
So they raised the rate at which it's not taxed. The amount has been raised that isn't going to be taxed if you die and leave to your heirs.
They raised the physical dollar amount where it's tax free. Okay, that's how they changed it.
Correct.
Okay. It wasn't a percentage change. God. This is definitely not deficit neutral, is it?
What do you mean deficit neutral?
Well, will the government in the long run be collecting less tax revenue than the previous tax code if everything was else the same with the static analysis?
Hard to say. All right. If you have everything as a static analysis, you assume no growth in the country, then of course lowering taxes is, and the number of people that are paying taxes, of course that's going to be more of a deficit concern.
Yes.
All right. However, that's not how taxes work.
Not at all.
If taxes,
I was
well,
listening.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was listening to the Contra Krugman podcast, and they said with every percent you lower taxes, there are rough estimates that says it changes GDP by about 3%. So dynamically, that could be huge.
Possibly. All right. See,
and these are just estimates.
Right. There's a curve to this. All right. There's a curve up and a curve down. It is kind of a bell curve, although it doesn't necessarily look like a bell.
No, it's not a bell curve. It's kind of like a Phillips. It's like an outward curve.
Well, but it does go back down again, because if you overtax something to the point where you kill negative economic growth, all right, that's on one side. But if you don't collect taxes at all on the other side, you're both at zero. For example, and I realize this is absurd in and of itself, but let's say a gumball, all right, that you get from the gumball machine, instead of a penny gumball machine, we tax it at 1,000,000%. We're just to be absurd here, right?
Like the yacht incident in the 90s where it just killed the economy.
Right. So where are you? Where are we on that curve is the question. All right. Is reducing taxes going to increase revenue, or is it not going to increase revenue? All right. That's going to be the question. Now, when we look at the situation, specifically the corporate tax, okay, the biggest change with the corporate tax is the fact that it's basically allowing companies to come back to the United States and basing their headquarters back in the United States. When people talk about hiding stuff offshore and things like that, that does occur, but that's in the minor. Where we really lose revenue, where the government really loses revenue from corporations, is when the taxes are too high, they just reincorporate overseas, and they use accounting gimmicks to make it look like any profits that are gained in the U.S. are not really gained in the U.S., so that they can pay the tax rate of the foreign corporation, all right, of the foreign rate. They would rather pay the lower rate of taxes, all right? So, for example, let's say I make widgets, all right, and the widget costs me $15 to bake, okay? If I produce that $15 widget in the United States and it's taxed at 30%, all right, then I'm not going to, but I could produce that same widget and get taxed at 20% overseas. Okay, then I'm going to say, okay, how much is it going to cost to transport the widget to the United States? If that remains below the 30% tax, I'm going to sit up there and produce it overseas, and then I'm going to sell it in the United States. And that any revenue that then comes from that is going to be looked upon as this was an internal sale within the corporation itself, all right, and that any of the profit is done at the corporate level overseas. So they're the ones that are incurring all the extra cost to that profit. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but MC, this is a good question from the chat. This comes from Kaiser Hertzen. But why would you want to move back to the U.S. with all that cheap labor? I think that's a valid concern.
Cheap labor is only one aspect of when you're producing things. One of the problems, of course, within the United States right now is you sit up there and press a button and you get, hello, this is Sanji from Texas. What can I help you? All right, nobody likes that. All right, this is a negative. All right, if you're able to do that and somebody says, hi, my name's Fred, you're going to get a different answer. All right, there's a lot of different reasons why you may want to do that within the United States. The only cheap labor is not the only reason that you go overseas, and it's not the primary reason that you're going to move your headquarters overseas. Okay, even if your tax rate, if you lower your tax rate and you say, I want to sit up there and move the United States headquarters back to the United States, sure, you may not be necessarily hiring any direct labor here in the United States, but once again now, we're from a tax perspective and from a company perspective, I have less to deal with. I've got more infrastructure here in the United States. It gives me a lot more breadth. It's given me a lot more opportunities here in the U.S. than it does in many of the areas overseas. Right? Does that mean there's going to be a rush to come back to the United States? Hard to say. All right, but it does make U.S. corporations now that are starting up, at least, all right, in a position where they can compete more effectively. Is it going to be 100%? Probably not, but it is going to make them more competitive, in which case you're going to see more revenue from that perspective.
Yeah, but what about the current climate where the U.S. economy has drastically shifted in the past 15 years or so from more of an, or even maybe longer, but from an industrial base to a service and intellectual property based economy? We either work at McDonald's or we think we're the next freaking movie director. You know what I mean? There's nobody out there that's really digging in the dirt anymore. If there is, it's the immigrants coming over that everybody's bitching about. Can you fix that flaw that's in the economy now, or is it just the way it's going to be?
Well, you got to look at what opportunities do you have in the United States to increase manufacturing, right? Manufacturing, there's lots of ways to increase manufacturing, not the least of which is you become more profitable by automation. All right, does automation hire as many workers? Obviously not. Right. However, it does hire workers, and it does sit up there and reduce your total workforce, which is generally your largest outlay. Does that change the dynamics from a service-oriented economy? Not really, because in order for those automated machines to be fixed, that's a service-related type of job. All right, even though you're more focused within a manufacturing base. Okay, so are the economies going to change on scale in that kind of environment? Hard to say. It's unlikely. All right, especially if it's just a 8-year or 4-year plan. Who knows what the next president's going to do? All right. Now, as far as can you change other aspects of it, I would venture to say that one of the main reasons why you have a service or entertainment related industry within the United States is predominant has more to do with the changes within the cultural environment than it does within the actual economic environment.
That's a valid point, because like I said, everybody thinks they're the next movie director, you know what I mean? Like, or the next radio host. I mean, shit, why do you think I'm on YouTube, for God's sake?
Well, also, there's a new economic phenomenon that I want to bring up where there's these FDIs coming in from China, bringing back manufacturing jobs to the U.S. for various like glass panes and different devices. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that unions for various manufacturing industries have lost a lot of power. So ironically, when you get rid of the unions and people start to accept their jobs at the market rate, the opportunity cost of producing things back in the US can be cheaper because they're able to make up for it with trained staff, cheaper supply chain, and cheaper shipping costs, just because the US is still by far the biggest economy. So there's a bunch of other factors that are put into America. So there are still opportunities for manufacturing, but for the general part of how our economy is going to grow, it's mostly through the service industry and taking advantage of the massive amount of capital we have. However, with technology, the capital market has become so much more perfectly competitive because you don't just need to go to your local bank anymore to get money. You can wire it from anywhere.
Well, yeah, and in the chat, once again, I think, let me go up here.
Oh,
Moondog
yeah.
says coal mines are dying because of the Obama era policies. That's true, I would say. Moondog also said up above that, offer more money to do the dirty jobs. Well, you can't. I mean, if you have like I did landscaping, I made $10 an hour before that was minimum wage. So, it was like $3 over minimum wage. That wasn't bad. But, even if you get a raise every year, you're not going to be making the same amount of money as a doctor. And if you were, then the landscaping company couldn't hire you. They can't afford that much overhead. They're a fucking landscape company.
Okay, but what are you saying? That you can't have landscaping companies now?
No, I'm just saying that you can't artificially inflate the cost of labor, like raising the minimum wage for these type of jobs, because then you'll kill the industry altogether.
Well, okay, yes and no, but the other thing is when you have a corporate tax, you're artificially doing that as well, all right? Because you're increasing the amount of overhead in a percentage difference between a small company and a large company. Yes, the overhead is the total cost of the overhead is going to be the same, but the ability for a large company to meet overhead versus a small company to meet regulatory overhead is completely different. All right, so your margins, all right, are completely different. When you lower these kind of taxes or you do away with a lot of these ridiculous regulations, right, this then allows for more competition and for the ability for smaller companies to actually start up and compete.
Interesting. 40, you haven't said much. You got anything to add to this, or you just don't like taxes? No.
I'm already having flashbacks from fucking last year's taxes. The last thing I want to talk about. Oh, Christ. Well, I'm certainly not looking forward to tax season. That's for sure.
Well, wait till you get your smoke tax that you're going to get in California. Since they've been taxing everything else, they're going to go the Maryland route where they tax the rain. Now you're going to get taxed the smoke.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You got to witness the fires that were going on. That means you get a 30% tax on you get raised.
Yeah. All the smoke I've been inhaling from all the surrounding fires, I'll get taxed for that too. Jesus Christ. Fuck me.
Yeah, they're still cleaning up in a lot of places. Like I have family in Ventura, they're still like they have neighbors that are just recovering, and the fires never went that far south before. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it was getting to the point where major cities were in danger of legitimately burning down.
Yeah, like it almost reached like Santa Barbara in certain places. Like it never goes that far south. Never. And Ventura County is the county just above Los Angeles County for those that aren't familiar with the vague geography of Southern California.
Yeah, multiple times. It's got to the point where it's actually starting to affect infrastructure on a very broad scale. Like they're having to actually shut down large lengths of the highways because fires will literally blockade the entire way. There was a fire. I'm trying to think. Orville, the city where the dam broke and everyone was losing their shit.
Yep.
I live in that area. And the highway expanse in between my town and Orville, there was this massive fire. And we don't usually get fires specifically within the valley, but there's a massive fire that broke out. And literally for about 2 or so days, people literally couldn't go to work. They couldn't go see their family. And it led to a massive, massive laundry list of other problems that I could fucking go on for days talking about. But no, the fires are just absolutely gut-wrenching in California right now. I'm surprised the whole state isn't getting charged for
Also, that
third-degree
power
arson
company is
or
at
some
fault
shit.
for some of that stuff, which is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
Personally, I think we need to start a campaign to build the wall and make the Californians pay for it.
That's a tax I'd be okay with. Oh, God. I hate California so much.
And of course, I'm trying to keep the Californians in there by building the wall along the California border. And if Oregon is too willing to take them in, I'm willing enough to block them off as well.
That's funny.
What
Yeah,
we
I was
do
about to.
is what we do is we create California Island by just separating it all along the San Andreas Fault.
Personally,
funny.
I'm all for sitting up there building the wall there and then selling California to the Mexicans.
I don't think they would buy it.
It's too shitty.
I don't want the
They
communists.
already have Baja California.
Well, I have a question. If you guys get your way and you separate California via wall or, dropping it into the ocean, how am I going to get to watch my Dodger games? All right. Like, that's the only good part about California is the
Buy Scooby
Dodgers
gear.
and In-N-Out Burger.
Oh, no. You also have The Habit. The Habit's pretty nice. Come on. The Habit's pretty good.
I don't even know what that is.
The Habit? Oh, you guys.
So
It's another West Coast burger chain. It's pretty good. I love their onion rings.
Or Wiener Schnitzel. That's some good food. I don't know how we got off the food. Maybe it's because I'm kind of hungry. But no. We got some great cancer coming up. All right. BuzzFeed. 37 things white people need to stop ruining in 2018. This should be entertaining.
I can stop you right there. I've already did a video on it, but I haven't had time to edit it.
Just listening to BuzzFeed makes me want to get the whiskey out again.
Yes.
It's like a drinking game, isn't it?
Oh, God.
If
Well-
you've seen Voice of One stream, you know what I mean.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, I feel bad. I don't want to ruin it for Voice. I have something that's equally funny if you guys want to take a gander at that.
Yeah, go ahead. If Voice did a video on this, I'll let Voice release that cancer. He can have it.
So this is pretty fucking funny, actually. So exclusive white power at the White House. Trump intern flashes alt-right symbol used by a notorious extremist during group photo with the president.
Can you show what alt-right symbol he flashed? Was it like the OK sign? Like, because anything's
The
an
OK sign.
alt-right symbol.
Did he have a glass of milk?
I would screen share, but I can't. But yeah, it was the OK
He's
symbol.
got a cookie! He's
Oh
got a
my
cookie!
It was the OK symbol. Goddamn.
Yeah, it was the OK symbol. A former White House intern is coming under fire after flashing a well-known white power symbol during a photo op with President Donald Trump.
The OK symbol's like the ball-gazing symbol, but like right side up. That's the OK symbol.
Yeah, the one with the WP acronym. It's funny because everyone else in the picture has their thumbs up, and he's standing underneath the George Washington painting with his fucking little OK symbol. It's just like the picture's fucking amazing. to
But
look at.
if he had it reversed, if he had it down, all right, it's a gang sign.
Yeah,
Oh, true.
there's no winning. Yeah.
He showed fingers. He showed fingers.
No,
Yeah.
you know what's great?
That's a microaggression.
Well, no, it's great. I saw on Twitter earlier. There's another white power sign. It's a thumbs up sign because that's 14 words. You know, the 1 and then 4.
Oh god.
Oh fuck.
Ugh.
Is there ever is there any symbol you can make with your hands that isn't offensive? Like,
Oh, it must suck to be deaf.
yeah.
It just must
Okay.
absolutely suck. Is that a criminal? The cops are out looking up there, see somebody signing it. It's gang sign. It's gang sign. Get him! The guy gets tackled. Right, he's down in the black community. He's trying to sit up there and talk to somebody. It's white power. Get him! Get him! The poor guy can't get away from it, man. He's freaking
I
screwed.
don't know. I think the middle finger is good because at least it's not racist. It's only sexist, apparently.
They'll make something up about how it represents how white people are better than black people. Or
No, they'll
something
say
like
how
that.
it represents America first because you're only holding up one finger.
Ugh.
No, it'll say it fuck it. You won't get the reference.
God, this
Well,
is so fucked.
dude, that was a letdown. What the fuck?
No,
Just
it's
never
a
mind.
really,
You won't,
really
you won't
niche
get it.
thing. It's a really niche
Oh.
thing, and even though
Oh, I thought you said it was an English thing. I was gonna say, oh, us Americans are too fucking stupid to get it. I see what's up.
Cabbage isn't here, so no one will back me up if I say that. I'll just get gang raped by let's say 5 Americans and a Scotsman or an Irishman.
No, Scots. Just stick with Scotsman. That's a great running joke. I want to keep that one going into next year.
What are we talking about? How the British version of that is the peace sign backwards, or
The V.
well, yeah, the V, V for victory backwards.
No, it originated because during the 100 Years' War, the English archers would do that to the French because those are the two things you
long
draw
bowmen were
an arrow
better.
back.
Yep.
Yeah, you drew an arrow back with them, and then they'd say, "Oh, we'll cut off your fingers if we capture you," and then they just do that to taunt them. And then Winston
Yes.
Churchill did it for victory. Not just basically our middle finger. We flip up two instead.
Yes, I actually knew that one.
All right.
So, I mean, I don't want to go through that BuzzFeed article voice. I saw what you said in the side chat. I'll let you do the video. But, I mean, overall, isn't like, what if I released, Mad Dodge Productions presents 40 things black people ruined in 2017?
Oh my
What
god,
the
we
fuck?
should totally do that. Hear me out. That would make such an amazing fucking video. Do you know how
Things
fucking
black 40. No, one of the top thing on that list should be Chicago.
dude,
Wait,
think of how fucking famous you would get. Just think of it.
There's famous, and then there's infamous.
Yeah, thank you, MC. I was going to say more like infamous.
It's a fine line, I agree. And many people will get the joke, but at the same time, you're going to end up being associated with Richard Spencer. Do you really want that? Because
No,
that's
I don't.
what will happen.
I don't like that guy.
And then the next thing you know, you find you've been
Hail our
doxxed by
people,
crowd.
hail victory.
Yeah, next thing you know, they'll be setting up a server to try and dox me. Well, okay, here's another thing. So, not to get too far into drama, but do you think the so-called community will survive next year, or is it just done? The so-called skeptic community, that is.
It's probably, in my opinion, it's probably just going to fracture because all things fracture eventually, and these guys are just now pointing out differences in each other that they just can't stand, and now they're just going to fracture like into little petty YouTube channels. In fact, I don't think the skeptic community was a thing.
Well, the thing is that major differences have always been there. It shows in a time of fracturing because we're
It was
coming
more
to
of an alliance than a community in reality.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's an excellent way to put it. I mean, you're
It's like
talking
the
about
enemy of my enemy is my friend. Like,
Yeah,
I doubt that
precisely.
many people there like to the amazing atheist, for God's sake. The guy who claims to be smarter than Thomas fucking Aquinas.
There's nothing skeptical about the skeptic community. None of those people are skeptics.
I like them, but if you've heard the Me an Intellectual song, you'll hear everything that's wrong with them.
Yeah, but Sayomi's right. They're not as skeptical as they claim to be. But then again, if you take skepticism to its nth degree, then basically you're going to sit up there and doubt anything and everything, and you never settle on anything.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So the idea that you're looking for some ultimate truth, or you're just trying to divine truth and that's what makes you skeptical. It's kind of to an extent you gotta understand where the limits are. You got to understand what the rationale behind what you're asking for is. If you're asking for proof, that's not necessarily skepticism. That's just saying, what's your proof so that I can decide. That doesn't make you a skeptic. And I think that many people got confused with that versus the people who were truly skeptic that did question each and every little thing that comes down the pipe.
Well, yeah, and I don't think being skeptical is necessarily being a centrist, which is seems all these people, they don't want to take a dog in the fight. You know what I mean? They don't want to pick which dog they want to win the fight. I'll pick a dog. I'm a libertarian. I tell everybody my bias right from the get-go. Taxation is theft. But, you know, and you want to get worse, Abraham Lincoln was a tyrant. Yeah, there you go. I'll take my side. They won't. They all just, they're wishy-washy and go back and forth.
Well, I mean, earlier today on Ogre's channel, he made the comment about a guy who was taking pictures. He was intentionally going out in front of kind of police stations and taking pictures of the police station. And he doesn't think that the police have any reason whatsoever to go in there and question the guy or ask for his ID. Right? Because, well, there's nothing illegal going on. Right? But that's not what policemen are. That's not the only thing police are there for. Police also investigate. Right? Just because they don't know a crime has been committed. For example, if a child goes missing, right, the police start an investigation. There's no evidence that a crime took place. All right, are you going to say that they can't investigate something like that? If they come back and they're walking around, there's a fire going on around a building somewhere, right? And they arrive and they see some guy walking away with a gas can in his hand. They have no evidence, all right, that the guy committed any crime. Are you going to tell me what's wrong for them to come up to him and say, "Hey, who are you? What are you doing here?" And ask for ID? Just because you're conducting an investigation doesn't mean that the police are wrong or can't investigate a crime or investigate a situation. Even if a crime hasn't even been committed, they can investigate.
Okay, MC, I see your point. But what if my car broke down 2 miles away and the gas station was around the corner? And I'm walking in the opposite direction away from the gas station and away from the building. Like I never went that way at all. Should I still be harassed? When
you're not getting harassed, you're getting questioned. Just because you're getting
there's a fine line.
Stopping you and asking you questions isn't harassment.
Are they going to frisk me when they stop me?
They might.
That's harassment.
No, if that's you, okay, how is that harassment?
If you're not charging me with a crime, then you have no right to search my pockets.
I think it comes down to probable cause.
Well, okay, but who gets to determine probable cause? The police do, unfortunately. They
do, but I think Mr. Ogre earlier, he was talking about they were in front of some government building. If you're sitting in front of a police station, taking a bunch of pictures, and you're just hanging out, it's one of those fine lines. And again, that's why you would have to go in front of a judge if they were to charge you. But typically, I like to refer back to English common law and just the reasonably prudent person clause. Basically, what that says is, what would your average Joe do in this particular scenario? And if you're there doing nothing and everything like that, if a cop happens to ask you for your ID, okay, that's fine. I understand what Ogre's saying. He's saying, I should not have to. And you know what? If you are not breaking a crime, if you are not doing anything, but if a community is on a heightened level of alert, if there was perhaps a warning or something like that, then they may have probable cause to actually do something about it. I guess. I mean, it all depends on the situation, like you guys were saying.
Well, yeah, but if you impede an investigation because you don't want to hand your ID, right, it's not unreasonable. It's not an unreasonable search and seizure for them to ask you to identify yourself. And your refusal to do so is impeding one of their investigations.
They would say that would lead to probable cause because you're trying.
Well, let me respond. There's no reason not to hand over your ID at that point. Now, I can reach back and grab my ID and pull it out of my wallet and hand it to them. That's fine. They could check the gas can. You know what? If it's completely full and the gas station guy was like, yeah, he was just here, dude. Like, he just filled it up and he's walking back to his car. That's fine too. At that point, they should just let me go. But if they immediately roll up with their guns out and like get on the ground searching you for no reason, that's a problem.
But the problem you have is that you don't know if they have a reason or not. You're already assuming that they don't.
I would be assuming they don't because I just put the gas in the gas can and I don't even know what's going on. So yeah,
Well,
as a citizen, I would assume they don't have a reason to do this to me.
That's a bad assumption to make.
Wait,
Okay,
so it's a better assumption that they always have a reason. So you should actually just, whenever you see a cop, hand over your ID and flip out your pockets. That's ridiculous to me.
No.
Well, you don't know who they're looking for or who they're not. You could
Right.
be accidentally fit the description.
Yeah, but you can know that they shouldn't be looking for you. You should know if you did something
Well,
wrong.
they'll figure that out when they, you get to the station, they look over your information. Oh, this isn't the right guy, and then you go your own way.
Oh, so papers, please. That's what I'm hearing.
The gas station example is pretty blatant. I'll give you guys an example. I was driving to work one day. All of a sudden, state trooper pulls right behind me, pulls me over. He gets out, runs up to the car real quick, takes one look at me, he says, "Is this your car?" I'm like, "Yes." Walks back to his car. 30 seconds later, he comes back, "You're all set." Didn't even take my ID or anything. What it seemed like at that particular time, there was likely an APB out for a stolen car that happened to match my particular car. He looked at me, and I'm making a big jump here, but I'm assuming I didn't look like the guy that he was looking for.
It could have been an Amber Alert as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I happened to have a hatchback, and he could see I wasn't kidnapping any kids.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between that and an unlawful search and seizure, which even searching your pockets without a real reason or a warrant, in my opinion, is unlawful search and seizure.
It depends on the situation. If they're looking for a suspect that is armed and dangerous, or they have a suspicion that is armed and dangerous, then it's perfectly reasonable for you to sit up there and to try and determine, well, it's not reasonable in this case because I didn't do nothing. Okay, you're ignoring what the police are doing during their investigation. You're inhibiting a police investigation. You're making things more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah, if they have a suspect that, is suspected to have like either a bomb device or whatever like that, and you accidentally fit the description and they're searching you, well, you wouldn't
I'm sorry.
know that.
I'm sorry, my Fourth Amendment rights is a little inconvenient to you, police officer, but you swore to uphold my Fourth Amendment rights.
Well, it's just a lot of folks don't actually know what their actual rights are or the exact law. Like on Ogre's channel the other day, you happened to have that particular pastor. He happened to know the law, and he should remain calm and everything. And I think a lot of the issues we have, it's just escalation that seems to be unneeded. All of a sudden, like you said, "Oh, I haven't done anything wrong." And the cop saying via his training, "Well, that's what somebody that obviously was doing something wrong would say," and then tempers flip. Just look at what's happening in this whole community right now. A lot of it is just folks freaking out about things, making bigger deals about some things than others. And yeah, there are a lot of important issues, but here's the thing. If you didn't do nothing wrong, I understand there's still the principle of the thing, Mad Dog, and I agree with you there. You should not have to, but really, like, if you haven't done anything wrong and you're straight up with them, most cops are pretty chill. Not all, but most.
I mean, for goodness sake, don't have court on the street.
Maybe it's because I grew up in a small town and I got messed with by the cops just because they knew me. You know what I mean? I had no criminal record. They just knew me from high school, and they knew my friends, so they like to fuck with me.
And they
so I'm a little touchy on it.
That you're the local hoodlum and drug user too.
Oh, yeah, I sold a little weed, MC. Yeah, I know you filed that away in your NSA documents. Sorry.
He's a government spy.
It's all right. I think that's why my channel survived this year. Is I have them, I have the surveillance guy with the Redeye almost every time. So it's all right.
Inside man. Never mind.
The NSA has records of everything we do online. Once we went digital from analog, there's a digital fingerprint on everything.
And I bet they have a specific file where they put all the shitlords. Just classify us all: shitlord, wood, shitlord, mad dog, shitlord, Xiaomi, shitlord.
I believe the term is shit lady. Although
Shitlord is a
I may have misgendered.
gender-neutral
My
term.
apologies if I did.
The term shitlord is gender neutral. Keep it politically correct.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
Technically, he is right. There's a difference between lords and ladies. You know, difference between baron and baroness. Dutch.
How dare you? No,
I'm
how
sorry.
dare
Are you purveying harmful gender stereotypes, sir?
That's right. Yeah, what the hell, MC? Don't you know there's 20 million
Are you
genders
saying that a
now?
lady cannot refer to herself as a lord if she pleases, sir?
I'm not saying that a guy can't consider himself a queen even if he wants to. I'm not saying anything like
Just look at Freddie Mercury.
I'm not assuming anything. I make no assumptions.
Oh, no, yeah, you do. All right, MC, how many genders are there?
2.
Yeah, I agree, but still, there you go. We're the enemy, sir. That makes us evil.
Well, I think that I'm pretty much classified as an enemy no matter where I go, so I've kind of gotten used to that.
Well, you know, I recognize you're the enemy, but I still think you're cool. Like,
Well, you guys just brought up an interesting point. It's just so much of the conflict that seems to be happening just online in general is folks just trying to virtue signal to their own groups as well. I am the best person in the world. I have this. I have that. Whereas if you just come out and say, I am a terrible human being, it's a lot hard to criticize you then.
Well, I think part of the problem when you start talking about going back to the idea of whether or not you have a community and what is the community made out of, right? There's people that have a differing views of what an online community means and what the standards of that community actually are, right? For example, if you're friends with someone and they do something that is objectionable, right? The idea that you have to call them out in a public forum, all right, in order to maintain credibility to me is just an alien concept. I'm not saying that you can't talk to your friend or you don't say, hey, look, don't do this or you shouldn't do that, all right? But all that, there's no reason why it has to be in a public forum, right? If you don't call up somebody publicly, doesn't mean that you somehow support their actions or somehow you're doing something wrong. That doesn't make you wrong, in my opinion, all right? But that is not the prevailing, it seems to be the prevailing viewpoint.
Well, that's true, but when you're operating in the public sphere, unfortunately, the how should we put it? The court of public opinion matters very much, and you will be judged, and you will be evaluated on your past actions, and so one small slip up, such as not condemning Mr. Jeff Holiday or Mr. Trout and T, well then, I mean, you know, that's a major fuck up because these people have done something that is, in my eyes, personally, quite fucking terrible. And if you don't distance yourselves, I mean, you're going to be publicly strung up, so to speak.
So you're strong arming people to act in a specific way, not the fact. It's not the fact that they failed to act. All right. I mean, if somebody fails to act, that's so what? Lots of people fail to act. How far do you want to take that? There's a lot of people that see a woman getting raped in the street and they fail to act and they fail to help her. Okay, do we then condemn all them? Do we then take them out and horsewhip them? Do we string them up at a tree? Do we hold them up for ostracization? Do we sit up there and let everybody know that this guy was letting this person, you know, this happen? What about all the guys who sit up there, all these reporters on the sideline that see people getting shot and don't do anything beside from film it and go, oh, that was a horrible thing. Do we take those people out? I mean, that's a public forum, right?
Yes, take everybody out. Fuck them all.
Thanks, voice. The voice of reason.
I remember Dr. Sanjay Gupta saving someone's life because he was a doctor and he was there.
Is Voice's plan how we're going to get rid of the terrible mainstream media that reports inaccurate news? Just be like, hey, you're liable to jump in the fire?
I would not have a problem with that.
Just wait for Trump's libel reform.
Oh, boy. I mean, he already made an executive order yesterday about corrupt corrupt people
basically
with
human. Yeah, you got it.
human trafficking.
And basically any type of corruption. It was a very broad, sweeping executive order that plays upon things that are right there. It's basically a warning shot across the bow saying, yeah, if we find you, you guys ain't getting off scot-free anymore. So, I mean, it does really seem like things are changing. You see every day more and more folks resigning from big companies, from Congress and everything. It just makes you wonder, like, is there a correlation or what's going on?
It's almost as if he's doing something presidential. What a surprise.
Be a leader? Oh my God.
Wow, what a shock. But also, if you look at the way the document's worded, a lot of it points at the Clinton Foundation and what they've done in Haiti.
Why would he ever do that? The thing
because it's the right thing to do.
Oh,
absolutely. He can do the right thing.
But the thing that gets me, Zach, is just he tried to give her a pass. He said the whole, yeah, you'd be in jail thing because it got a huge crowd pop. It was a pro wrestling move. Even after he got elected, he went to a couple of rallies and said, we don't really want to put her in jail. He's kind of trying to treat it as a throwaway remark. But the Clinton came back. She kept attacking him.
Well, he did flip
pushing him. So, I mean, she kind of brought this on herself now because now he's just going on a freaking crusade.
I mean, he's just signing something and then holding it up.
Well, it isn't just that. It
isn't just that, but that's the PR side of it, which is interesting.
Mueller, when Mueller was the FBI director, this predates Clinton or Hillary rather. This predates Obama and such. You have a massive swing toward politicization of the FBI and specifically the Justice Department. And the result is because it became so polarized, because it is now so politicized, Trump is having to go in there and he's going to have to clean sweep these agencies, all right, of the political creatures, of the political swamp creatures. It isn't something that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take place over an extended period of time. And these people are not going to go out willingly. You can expect it. This is why you're seeing a lot of this dirt going back and forth all over the place. Because as many of these political creatures that exist within these two agencies that are supposed to be apolitical at best, right? There are, for as many of those that were politicized, there were many under them that were like chomping at the bit, hoping that these people would somehow go away. And so there are internal fights taking place that nobody's hearing about, that nobody really knows about. And you're not going to hear the press talk about it, for crying out loud.
Well, you've always had politics in the FBI ever since, like, didn't J. Edgar Hoover, he had a file on almost all the politicians and shit that he could use for leverage, right? I mean, come on. That was the founder of the FBI, pretty much. So, I mean, they've always played these dirty games. They're always taking a side.
The idea that J. Edgar Hoover had files on multiple people, all right, and that there are FBI. There's an FBI file on me, for example. All right, I know for a fact. Why? Because in order to have the clearance that I had to be investigated by the FBI. All right, so there's an FBI file on me. To say that there's somehow that's a necessarily nefarious thing is not accurate. Now, if you use it for blackmail, if you use it for political purposes, yes, then you can say, okay, yeah, that's dirty pool. But the fact that there's a collection of files and stuff isn't in and of itself a problem.
Yeah, but I mean, the tendency for the head of the FBI to use said files for his own expediency would be a pretty good temptation, would it not?
Well, that's the reason why the FBI is under the surveillance, or supposed to be under the surveillance of the people's representatives. Right?
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, I don't know. I think I have a
people's
point.
representatives right now.
The people's representatives are the people they voted into office. Something that most Americans have forgotten about.
Well, that's one of the problems. What are your thoughts about a national holiday for voting?
I don't think a national holiday for voting is going to change anything. Just because people aren't going to do the research, they're not going to put the effort into figuring out who the candidates are, and also with the way our system's set up, the primaries are so much more important Because once you get past the primaries, if the leading candidate isn't representing your party, that might actually try and do something instead of being a puppet to the big elephant or the big donkey, then you're kind of fucked. So
How
you'd
about-
almost need two.
How about if we offered free pizza?
No, I actually,
Like I said, it doesn't fix the research problem.
you know,
but it's not a
one
bad
way
idea.
one way that could actually help is if you actually made a constitutional amendment to make the primary system actually controlled by the voter laws. That way the Democrats can't shove through Hillary. Or, you know, like the Libertarian Party, they have a convention where you don't even really vote, just the people that show up at the convention do a vote. That's about it. And it's like a 3-day convention. You have no real say. Like, I didn't want Gary fucking Johnson as the presidential nominee, but there was nothing I could do about it.
But you're always going to have a situation where you would have preferred A over B or B over A.
That's right. But if you actually made it underneath the laws for voting for the actual election, then you couldn't really let the parties control the picks that come out. You know what I mean?
I personally think, and this is something I personally believe, I think you would have people far more aware and far more engaged, all right, as if we went back to just one move, one single move, and that is put the election of the senators directly under the control of the state senate.
Yeah, what amendment repealed that or changed that? I don't remember which amendment that was.
Like the 22nd, 23rd, I think. I'm not. I don't remember.
Yes, I know what amendment you're talking about. I actually prefer the direct election of our senators if we have an educated populace that does our research.
Does it look like we're going to have an educated populace anytime soon?
No, but the thing is, if we have an undereducated populace voting for our state representatives, doesn't that just make the process more indirect? It doesn't really solve the problem. It dilutes it, which doesn't make a big difference.
It does in this regard, and this is why I said it. What it creates is an environment where people are more aware of what goes on with their states. The problem right now is people aren't even aware of what's happening within their own states, let alone the country. Yeah, they're starting to focus more on, okay, what's going on within the country, but they're ignoring the responsibility that the states were supposed to have.
Not even the country. They're just focusing on the executive branch, for fuck's sake, and occasionally the Supreme Court.
Well, exactly. Yes.
Until the budget comes up with taxes, then it's all eyes on the House and the Senate.
But if you sit up there and put it back to the state elections, where the state themselves are choosing who these electors are, they then will become far more engaged, all right, in the state politics themselves, and it's that kind of politics that will get them engaged more in the federal politics. You got to build it from the ground up.
How do we get people more engaged?
Like I said, make it so that each state legislature chooses the senator.
You know, I'd go even further than that. I would make it go back to where whoever won, you know, all of them are running for president. Whoever wins is president. Number 2 is vice president. So right now,
original.
Yeah, so right now you would have Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Could you imagine the shit show the White House would be? It would be amazing.
It would be a reality show.
It would be amazing, but it would be incredibly
corrupt.
I don't know. No, not corrupt. I don't know. Well, the vice president really doesn't hold any power. It's just a deciding vote whenever there's a tie. So I think it's almost an insult to injury. And I think that would just create a lot of cynicalism.
Hillary Clinton would probably have Donald Trump assassinated so that she could conveniently take power.
Well,
25th Amendment.
I don't know. Doesn't Trump admit to having like inside carrier permits, so he always has a gun on him?
He's always got a vest on.
And doesn't he have a pistol too? Like,
I don't know if he's
registered
armed or not.
like concealed carrier or whatever.
His hair is actually a bulletproof helmet.
He's surrounded by Secret Service, so at any point in time, you could have a Praetorian Guard moment.
Well, that was my point. Was like, why would you carry if you're the president? You have the Secret Service fucking everywhere. You're all right.
Well, no, he was always a carrier before he was a president. It was just It was just a tidbit of information. A little
You know how
unrelated.
hard, you know how hard it is to get your concealed carry permit in New York City? Like, holy shit, who did he bribe for that?
He was Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's kind of a. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. You're talking
Maybe it
about a
was a
corrupt
gas bribe, maybe it was a
state.
property bribe.
All
has
he,
a lot of
all
real
he,
estate.
hell, all he had to do was walk in there and say, you know what, I could move completely out of this state and think of the tax revenue you lose. Just that one threat alone.
He's
That
literally
too.
the guy on the Monopoly box.
Yeah, it's almost like having a concealed carry permit in San Francisco or DC for that matter. I mean, it's almost impossible to get.
Yeah, it is very difficult. That's why I really am looking forward to this next year, because the House has promised to bring up reciprocity for concealed carry.
Yeah, but they also want to ban bump stocks. It's like they're speaking out of both sides of their fucking mouth here. You know what I mean? I don't know what to believe.
They're politicians.
Yeah, I know, and that's why the only guy I like in the Senate is Rand Paul. That's it. Like, the rest of them can fuck off.
Once again, that's why I think that if you want people to get more engaged in politics, you got to start at a local level, right? If you had the senators elected by the states, then people would start to become more aware of, okay, I've got a responsibility to the state and how the state works, and then also they'd get more involved in the state politics as it goes on as well.
No, go ahead, man.
So I think that engaging people on a local level to get them more involved in a local level so that they start realizing, hey, I have a voice at a local level, will engage them closer to being more aware of what's going on in politics in general.
Well, I think one of the things that Trump has harnessed on that catapulted him to the presidency, he made this shit fun. Like, he literally came to a rally in my hometown, went over there, and it reminded me of going to literally a WWE event, except it was organized so well. The folks working there were so professional. It just was a well-run operation that was entertaining. Because let's face it, you put on C-SPAN, most folks are going to pass out after a couple of minutes. Donald Trump makes good TV. That's how we got $3 billion of free advertising. But just as long as you can engage people, for better or worse, whether you're playing a villain or the hero, people are intrigued and people want to tune in. So I think if we can take anything away, folks are talking about issues now. We're just hating on each other so much.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, the problem is the only reason people are tuning in is because Donald Trump is such a polarizing figure. I mean, look at what the United States was before Donald Trump came to the political landscape. I mean, you got people saying that, you know, oh, well, Obama and who's the Mormon guy who tried running for president?
Mitt Romney, former governor of mine.
Mitt Romney, thank you. So, yeah, Mitt Romney and Barack Obama were, in some instances, saying the very same thing. So they're very obviously bought up by a lot of these, you know, corporations and everything. But you don't get polarizing figures on the political stage anymore. I mean, people aren't attuned with politics because it's so goddamn boring. I mean, why go to your local polling booth to vote for a congressman or a Senate member when you can just stay at home and sit on Twitter and whatnot? I mean, personally, I'm a Huxley kind of guy. I mean, he lays it all out in Brave New World. It's not that the government is trying to hide information or something like that. It's because people are becoming lazy and they just don't fucking care anymore.
Well, we are 80% water, and water tends to go the path of least resistance.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Unless you get an amazing election like we did last year that is entertaining and sound bites out the fucking ass. I mean, you're not going to see major turnout.
Well, that's the thing, and that's why you see, like, especially certain YouTube channels, like I'll throw it out there, Lionel Media, or Lionel Nation, as he goes here. What does he do? He covers news, but it's more of news entertainment. At least me personally, I happen to see what's going on right now, kind of like professional wrestling. It went from a sport to sports entertainment. We're seeing basically news and politics go from news to news entertainment.
Well, also, you could maybe, what if that entertainment aspect backfires like ESPN? and turns into a complete shit show.
Oh, it already has. I mean, look at Fox News. When did Fox News take over? 2001. Basically when 9/11 happened. And I remember I was watching a lot of Fox News. Why? Because it made you feel good as an American. You're watching it. They were covering all these positive American stories. They had pretty much the same coverage of the disaster and everything that everyone else was, but they just put a very positive spin at the time that made you feel proud to be an American. And again, not everybody necessarily felt that way, but enough folks that it catapulted them to #1. And now they're starting to fall apart and they don't know what the hell's going on. So it's like you said, I think what was
that's
it?
Because they're turning to Alex Jones because he's outdoing them at their own game.
Oh yeah, he just took it to another level.
Well, and that's another change. InfoWars has press passes, don't they? That's a big deal.
Oh, I don't think they do. I didn't think.
Oh, I
they
thought I heard they did, but maybe I'm
they're
wrong.
trying to
No,
get
Alex
them.
Jones has a
Fake
hotline
news.
to the president.
Yeah, just imagine the fucking shit Donald Trump would get if he let Alex Jones into a fucking press briefing. Christ almighty.
Oh, it would
Yeah.
be amazing. He'd have to do it when there
Oh,
was an
I'd love
actual
it.
Donald Trump scandal so he could deflect and just have them talk about Alex Jones for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Also,
I wish he kept Spicer, dude. God, that guy's a fucking magic man. Sorry, go on, man.
Did y'all forget that Trump was on the Alex Jones show at one point?
Was he?
oh, I forgot.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was, absolutely, early on.
Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, shit. Hold on, I'm gonna watch this really quick.
It literally, I watched a little bit of it, but it seemed like, because here's the thing, Donald Trump went on every freaking show. I have worked at a place where literally Donald Trump called into a telethon and made a very substantial donation. No, man, he definitely was on there, and I remember, all of a sudden my YouTube kicked me over to Alex Jones, and don't get me wrong, watching Alex Jones, it's like watching a NASCAR race. You're not watching it to see folks take left turns all day. You're waiting for something to completely go off the rails.
Oh my god, he was. It was 2 years
Well,
ago.
that and the private labels. You can't forget the Alex Jones private labels that people are obsessed with.
Oh, that's just like NASCAR, except they use brand name labels.
True.
That super male vitality.
That and the anti-fluoride toothpaste that won't kill you.
Yeah. God damn it.
Yeah, I just want to see the press conference where Alex Jones goes, "Mr. President, tell America about the gay frogs. You need to know."
Well, actually, I had a professor when I took an environmental science elective that actually did studies on this and how it was affecting vast dissimilar chemicals, and it's not making them gay, but it is making them infertile. And when it comes to fish, what's the difference between gay and infertile when all you do is just squirt on eggs?
I thought it made the frogs train sex.
No, it made their sperm infertile and get estrogen-like features in males. So basically...
What I'm saying is, I thought frogs were one of those creatures that occasionally could literally transition to female if the need was there for the species.
Someone will have to check me on that.
I do have an ogre confirming me. I know he is an Alex Jones, I wouldn't say junkie, but I know he partakes once in a while. And I remember Sargon saying it. So as far as those sources go, it could be wrong, but it kind of sounds like something that's possible. Like if it's for a lamb or something, I'd say, yeah, that probably doesn't make sense.
No, not a mammal. No.
All right, well,
yeah.
I have another funny story here. It comes from RT. So cybersecurity guru John McAfee had his Twitter hacked. His Twitter was hacked, and the hacker was doing a cryptocurrency of the day thing for the last 3 or 4 days. They kept shilling different cryptocurrencies.
So
that was pretty funny.
Well, isn't McAfee bought up by Intel?
Yeah, 20 years ago, and everybody on Twitter was making jokes get better, software, virus software. And shit.
Well, if you want really good corporate software and you want to pay out the ass, get Semantic, but that's a different story. That's not for average Joes. It's fucking expensive as hell.
No, but it's worth.
Well, for businesses, it's worth every penny. Yes.
Either that or get a Mac.
Well, no, and it's funny. I'm looking at it. So it's like, though I am a security expert, I have no control over Twitter's security. I have haters. I am a target. People make fake accounts, fake screenshots, fake claims. I am a target for hackers who lost money and blame me. Please take responsibility for yourselves. Adults only, please. God damn.
Well, it's either that or his password was McAfee1.
Yeah.
Or I love heroin. That would be a good one for him.
You
Jesus.
forgot to add the one. Oh, dead air. It's the best air.
Taxation is not theft.
Uh-oh.
I can hear Mad Dodge just hyperventilating through that mute.
Well, let's think about this. We've already touched upon the frogs becoming gay, so the stream has already been derailed.
What does it matter anymore?
Oh, Cabbage is here. Oh, thank God, he can save it.
Yeah, frogs are one of the things.
Come,
that,
Cabbage, rant about the control panel.
so can birds, apparently. Snakes.
So did what were our previous topics we were going on about?
Well, the Jews and their lies, why Hitler did nothing wrong,
Oh, that's my
why
favorite.
communism actually
And-
works.
Are you drinking
Well,
again?
we do lie. Hitler's in Argentina, and I missed the last one.
Yeah, we do lie. But
Okay,
yeah,
But
no.
how much exactly?
Hey, we're all different.
Well, how would you know I'd be telling the truth if I gave you an amount?
Fair point.
Zach, as a fellow Jew, I do have to let you know now you are slowly doxing yourself.
I've
We started the other night, and I just have to throw that out there because otherwise, if whoever the NSA, CIA, whoever's listening, if all of a sudden you hit it big, you get 1 million subscribers, they're gonna go back through the Internet archives, go through all this.
Oh no!
They'll be like,
literally,
all
you
right, the
can
New
dox.
Jersey Jew, we got to get him.
No, literally, based off
We'll
of what I've
bust
said
him in
in
the
previous
bagels and
ogre
cold cut
streams,
store.
any diehard ogre fan could easily dox me within 5 minutes without having any hacking skills.
Well,
I
that's
am
fine,
really
but we love you.
I'm
I
really
know.
starting
Why
to
do
think
ogre
this,
fans hate you or something?
I'm
No, I
starting to
don't
think this,
create content, so I don't think I'm at risk, or as big of a risk as someone else.
I'm starting to think this is the left-wing stream. It's called SJWs. We've got a couple of Jews, a Californian, and a tranny.
Fuck you.
Can we have to get
Hey,
back.
I'm probably. Hey, last time you said
Is
that
the
I was
stormtrooper
the reincarnation of
stereotyping?
Hitler.
Well, we have to get back to America first.
You know, I
I'm
tell you
not
what,
going to say
guys.
it, but white pride.
All right, I tell you what, you can go have your national socialist rally somewhere else.
All right,
Right.
voice of one. Let's go to our National Socialist rally. Let's get the whiskey out.
Oh, I'm already drinking, so
Yeah, I was about to say I'm drinking.
Oh my God,
Right.
he's. Oh, I know where he's from. It's amazing. I love this man.
Yeah,
stuff.
he's Irish. He was born drinking.
Oh, that's fine. Me too.
What happened? What happened to keeping voice Scottish for the rest of the year, Mad Dodge?
Scottish, Irish. They're interchangeable. They both like skirts.
don't
One likes to
fucking
wear
start,
them. One likes to get under them.
Don't start, you filthy yank.
I would like to make a correction. That's two trannies.
Oh, two trannies.
Two trannies.
Am I one?
Let's
Oh God.
3. Welcome, you see.
trans
Well,
lives
okay.
matter.
Okay, 40 outs. If you have to ask that question, then maybe.
Well, I don't know. It's just smooth down there. I don't know what to think.
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for us to descend into the "Are traps gay" debate.
Yes,
No. Are
they
traps
are.
gay? You know, I don't think they are. I don't think
If
traps are
they
gay.
engage in
I don't-
homosexual activity, then they're
What
gay.
have I unleashed?
If you stop being a faggot and you just suck that dick, then you're not gay.
Who cares?
You know what? Everyone.
You obviously don't know the first rule. It's not gay if you say no homo.
There you fucking go. Your balls slap together a little bit.
Oh,
Just-
come on. Everybody's
Okay,
a
No,
little
no,
gay.
there's a second rule to it. Don't make eye contact.
It's okay. No, it's like this. It's not gay if you don't swallow.
Well, to be fair, I had a recent discussion with my brother, and he
if
told
we
me, he's
gargle?
like, well, I found out after the fact, and it's just like, and I asked him the question. I asked him, are traps gay? And his response was, no. But then again,
Hang on.
it may have just been the fact that he just got sucked off, and the individual just still happened to have a penis. I mean, she was lovely, and they were. Actually, no, he stopped drinking a while ago. So yeah, she was hot.
Doesn't it depend on what is?
Well, yeah, it's the Bill Clinton lawyer excuse. And that's how everybody does the mental gymnastics. Here's the thing: if you're turned on and you're freaking getting your dick sucked or eaten out or whatever, it's like, if in that moment it is what you believe, the mind's a weird thing, and I don't know, maybe Freud's making a lot more sense to me in my later years.
Oh God.
Well, it's different if you look like Xiaomi there, right? I think we can all agree, well, we're straight, gay, whatever, that she is a very attractive person, right?
Well,
Absolutely.
to be fair, I did call her a shit lady earlier, so I had no idea.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm like, I have balls, it's blonde, and it looks cute. I don't know. That's the most basic biology I can spit out there. So I'm like, all right.
You know, so you'd have no excuse. You know, you couldn't turn around and complain about getting a blowjob from Xiaomi because very attractive. But if you turn around and start to do anything else and you put your hand down there and you keep going, then it's gay.
Well, see, and also we haven't met in real life, so it's also maybe it's a pheromone thing. I mean, there's a lot of things. Hey, man, all I'm going to say is the heart wants what the heart wants.
You mean what the cock wants?
I was gonna say
Well-
by heart he means penis.
Well, hey, God gave man both a brain and a penis and only enough blood to run one at a time.
Yeah, and the penis is bigger.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I just saw the side chat there, Wood. Yeah, I went a whole year without the R Traps gay debate. Thanks a lot for bringing in the new year, buddy.
I'm
Well, I
pretty sure
mean,
we
once you
discussed
have two traps in the same stream, the question's gonna come up.
this. I'm pretty sure we
Things-
discussed this
and then-
more than once.
Things tend
No,
to
that was on man
raise
streaming
when
40.
traps
No.
are around.
Then there is the other question: traps
well,
or futas?
Okay.
Mad Dodge, I think you need to get us back on the rails here. Where are we headed, bro?
Yeah.
Okay, get the
All
train
right,
back
all
on
right.
the rails.
Let's see. So McAfee, yeah, nobody cares about McAfee. But no, we can expand from the trap thing. What about Riley Dennis's stance, where if you're not attracted to trans people, then you are a fucking transphobe and you should go die?
Riley Dennis
Is that a
is
good,
advocating for rape with that. Just tossing it out there.
I would like to say, as a current college student, I could be disappointed if I run into a trans because it's a waste of a swipe. Because you get limited swipes, but I don't think I'm necessarily transphobic. I'll start the conversation on that ugly note.
By a swipe.
For
Definitely
Tinder.
have swiped, checked, and pretty much always they will mention that. I'm sorry, I cut you off, shit lady. Basically, they say straight up, it's like, I'm transgender, I'm still pre-op, blah, blah, blah. And I look, I'm like, oh, they were cute, but I'm just like, and like some of them would message me and I wouldn't respond. And part of me is like, oh, maybe I should just respond. They messaged me. I said I liked them. Should I just say, listen,
That's
hon,
why you
I'm
don't
sorry.
blindly
I'm
swipe
just,
right. You can't do that. You have to look. I know it's
No,
easy
but
to blindly
folks are
swipe
lazy.
right, but I know.
yeah, you're still young. Once you get to the point where you actually start spending money on shit, then all of a sudden you lose all hope. And that's how folks go
Ugh.
bankrupt. You pay for the upgrade, you drop a couple of G's on Pornhub.
Oh
Hey,
no,
man, these
I've
things
known
happen.
people that have purchased Tinder Plus when they were drunk. Now they have
Oh,
several hundred matches and they don't need to swipe ever again. Granted, they're like old. They're quite a few years older than me, so they're not using that for the service anymore.
Oh no, and that's
means
one of
that
those
way.
things too. You will see, especially if you get out there, you get a decent job and stuff like that. If you don't have family or kids, you can have money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
there was that
Who
guy who
needs real?
created that website
Who
for
needs
rich
real
people.
women when you have anime titties?
That
God bless Bulma.
Singaporean guy. There was some shitty Vice article about some Singaporean guy who had a lot of money, created his own dating website for rich men to get relationships, but not necessarily escorts. And you had to prove your net worth.
Oh, really? What
Yeah,
is
it's a
site?
sugar daddy or one of those.
Yeah. So basically, it was this like stereotypical like Asian guy. Long story short, he was like, my parents always told me if I worked on the grades, the woman will come. And he eventually became successful, and he had some programming skills and built his own site and used it. And I think there was like a little Vice news story about it. Granted, Vice, how reputable they are, you can debate about that, but it's basically just a sugar daddy site used for something other than just a simple escort.
And every single one of them is one step away from being accused of sexual harassment and having to fork over hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes, they are.
Oh.
Yeah, no, either that or being doxxed, like the people on Ashley Madison. All those poor guys looking at freaking bots. You know, there was not even any real women on that site, and now their marriage is ruined because of a bot.
Well, maybe you should have done that if you really wanted to keep your marriage alive.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, my wife's behind me. I'm definitely not on that site, but just saying, those poor bastards.
Sugar daddies and stuff. I am possibly going to have a sugar mama.
Oh.
She's like a 9, so yeah.
Ooh.
Well, not when Obama says the wage gap is 76 cents to the dollar and isn't affected by career choices or anything.
I'm usually not
The
into
wage
women,
gap
but
is a lie.
something I couldn't
My-
resist, so.
Here's the thing. My ex-girlfriend at the time, when she was still living with me, we had separate rooms because well, she happened to have narcolepsy and everything. So I mean, it kind of worked out. It was a good thing. So she was paying rent, and then once she got laid off from her job, she went and literally she essentially was an escort, but not in the escort type of fashion. She literally got paid $500 to hang out with a dude and pretend to be his girlfriend for 5 hours playing D&D.
Oh,
It was fucking
I have a
awesome.
story like that. I do have a sugar daddy that I'll go like on an hour date and he'll give me like $160 and also he'll give me drinks and stuff.
Well, here's the thing. I realized a long bit ago. When was it? Probably 2000. Oh my God! It's probably like 9 years ago now. There was this guy, and basically he told me he was one of those dudes at the gym, just did way too many steroids, didn't know how to basically moderate himself at all. And he's like, he showed me like Plenty of Fish when it first came out, as well as like Craigslist. He would get paid $600 cash a week to basically stand around, yell at some guy, spit at him while the dude jerked off in front of him.
Hot.
He's like,
What?
I make 600. Dude, this guy's making freaking like $2,400 a month just by having it. That happened to be what that dude liked, and this dude was willing to fulfill it.
Yo, guys, I think I'm gonna quit my job tomorrow.
Yeah, you're not the only one. Hey, MC, do you want to be my sugar daddy?
I've been married. I've been married.
If I can have
married
quite
for
a bit,
30 friggin' years. I don't have money. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, here's the thing. You're obviously a good, upstanding person.
Yeah, poor.
Well, exactly. I never said you were rich. I just said you were a good person.
If it isn't the
I
wife,
actually
it's the
have a
kids in college.
serious, in-depth answer to the Riley J. dumbass question. If anybody wants to actually have it answered.
Yeah, answer it.
Okay. So her stance is that, or we'll go with her stance is, if you are not willing to have sex with a transgender individual, then you are transphobic. My rebuttal is, does that mean that a gay man that won't have sex with a straight man that won't have sex with a gay man, homophobic, or a straight woman that won't have sex with a lesbian homophobic? Or we could go even further and say, is a straight woman that won't have sex with a straight man, you know, is that some kind of phobia too? Because she's a straight woman, she should expect, or he's a straight man, so he should expect any straight woman to have sex with him. Otherwise, obviously, she's some kind of phobic. As far as I'm concerned, her stance is advocating for rape. Because she's basically saying, you have to fuck me because I'm trans, and if you don't, then you're bad.
I just think she's kind of frustrated because she's been told no a bunch of times. That's what it just kind of. I have no idea about the story, but just based upon what you've told me, that kind of sounds like that's just some frustration she's venting.
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of the
frustrate plenty of people.
What I get, one of my frustration with a lot of these trannies is they'll complain. They'll be like, "Oh, I can't find nobody to sleep with. I can't get me a boyfriend." And then, you know, a tranny chaser comes along that actually wants to fuck them, and they're like, "Oh no, I don't want to be with you. You're a tranny chaser. You just want to fetishize me." I was like, "Bitch, you have somebody right in front of you that wants to fuck you, and you're turning them down."
But
no plan.
That sounds like most every person at some point in their life, though. Like it shouldn't matter. Like if you're a trans person, because we've all had a friend, whether they're gay, straight, trans, whatever it may be, that literally we've heard that exact story from, right? Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and a lot of times, like, it was girls talking to their freaking guy friend, and really he's the one in the friend zone that wants to fuck her, and he's just like, fuck you. Like,
well, the thing,
hating every minute.
Like they're not attractive or anything, right? It's like this person could be like totally what they would like, right? But as soon as they find out that he's attracted to trans women, then they don't want anything to do with him.
Well, I think they kind of know at that point they have them, and that's kind of like the backup plan. It's a horrible thing to say about people, but just I kind of think like that's how a lot of folks' minds kind of work. Maybe not the exact way, but same principle, maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think?
That is actually fuck me. I couldn't give you the study. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't give you any citation, but I know there was a study done about something that was similar to that, but it was specific just to women. And it was like a 30 or 40% of women have a backup man. 20% of women who have a backup man say that they're best friends with the backup man, or whatever it is. I know studies have been done about that before. I can't find them, to be quite honest.
All right, and Zero Cool in the chat wants to talk about how The Last Jedi sucked. That's the name of the new Star Wars. I haven't even seen it. Has anybody here seen it, and does it in fact suck?
I haven't seen the last two Star Wars movies.
I heard good things.
Well,
Same. I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things.
I've think. Well, here's the thing.
And I've heard bad things.
I haven't watched Sargon's review yet, and I kind of feel like if you go in with that lens and you're kind of like looking for things, some things might piss you off. But if you just go in there and just be like, "It's freaking new Star Wars, man," I think you'd be all right.
Yeah, I like V's review. I haven't seen it, but in his secondary channel, the Center of Enrichment Diversity Culture, he gave I think a less skeptical review of it. I think he went in with a much more neutral attitude compared to what Sargon is. Granted, they're allowed to have different opinions, but granted, I think his sounds a little bit more realistic rather than just stirring the pot for the sake of it.
Well, yeah, because his second channel is mostly just. Oh, sorry about that. His second channel is mostly about just like games and like non-political stuff, which is usually less.
Which is good. So it's
edgy.
supposed to be a pop culture thing.
Yeah, but one of the things I think that you're starting to see, all right, with the Star Wars franchise is you're starting to see a separation between the old Star Wars fans who are admittedly older like I am, right, and the newer Star Wars fans, right, that are walking in it from a different point of view.
Oh, George Lucas made a boatload of money selling that to Disney.
Oh yeah, I mean, but he made a boatload of money simply because he decided to keep the franchising rights, and then sold all those little action figures forever and a day.
Oh, the marketing is amazing. What's going on, Mr. Bullocks?
Good evening.
Hey, welcome to the show. And yeah, we'll move away from the whole trap thing. We're going with Star Wars for now, and I think Disney's going to have a problem in about 3 years after they make a shit ton of these Star Wars movies. It's going to have franchise fatigue, just like Star Trek did. Star Trek went away for a good 15 years. It was off the air completely because of franchise fatigue.
I disagree. Hold up. Sorry. But I think with the new Star Wars world that I think they're building, I don't think it's going to have franchise fatigue. If you go to the Harry World part of Disney World where you can get that, what's that dumb like cream soda drink that's all sugar and really good? Like bitter beer or whatever it's called from Harry Potter. People are lining up for, yeah, butterbeer. What memes just said. People are lining up for hours just to do that. They took parts from the Racing Dragon roller coasters and just dressed it up to be Harry Potter themed. And even though it's one of the smaller parts of the park, I was lucky enough to go there when it was just brand new. Or a couple times. It's always one of the most crowded parts. If it's still like that, that's another thing. I haven't been in a while.
Let me ask you this. Do you think if they do continue Star Wars, are they going to try to continue to build on the world that they have, or go through some of the existing like Star Wars prequel lore?
You're confusing me with the. Can you reword that question?
Well, basically, have you read any of like the Star Wars like history or something like that? Because I do believe there's a bunch of literature. So basically, like Darth Plagueis and some of the
Darth
earlier
Bane
Sith.
is the best Sith Lord.
Well, exactly. So basically, it's kind of like for Dungeons and Dragons or even Lord of the Rings. You still have the Silmarillion that they could technically do. So there is existing literature out there that hits a lot of fan nerds and stuff like that, and like a fanboys and stuff like that. Me. But just when you look at it, there is existing things out there, but it has to be done right, I feel.
I think they will build off the literature, but I think they're gonna dumb down the plot, I think. Just so they could get more people in.
Well, they're going to have to find something a bit more unique than what they've done so far.
I disagree. They've done the same story so many times.
Yeah,
but don't fix it.
Well, yeah, but it is broke now, and that's what I'm trying to point out. You end up with the people who were hardcore Star Wars fans from the older Star Wars fans per se, that were the groupies and that watched it and everything. One of the things that George Lucas did that was really good is he didn't kill the franchise by making too many movies. He did it by he made a movie, he'd wait 2 to 3 years before he came out with the next one. Okay, this is a methodology that if Disney is smart, if they hold off instead of making a new Star Wars every year or every other year, wait the extra year, then I think it can continue. I think you're correct. It won't burn out. But if you make one every single year, you're going to get fatigue.
I think you are going to get fatigue, but the physical location in Disney is going to counteract that. Granted, you're right, it is the stupider move, but just because they're building a new Star Wars world, I'm saying they can get away with it. But I'm not saying you're not wrong.
Well, no, and this is what has me kind of irritated, is they threw out all the books as canon. The books are no longer canon. They are garbage. All the people that read all those old Star Wars books, they don't matter no more.
Let me know when I can jump in, because I'm really wanting in on this.
Jump in.
Oh, go ahead, Zero, right now.
All right. For all of you who are defending The Last Jedi, I'm going to make 3 things perfectly clear. 1, I was born when the original trilogy came out. 2, I liked Rogue One. Not specifically because it was a story that filled the gaps part between episodes 3 and episodes 4. I think that with today's climate, it was pretty darn good. And it had a strong female character, and the reason that the problems it had what it has is because it went through the changes that it went through, but it was still an overall solid story, even if we knew where it led to. Here's the reason I don't like the modern Star Wars. Not because I'm an old school guy, but because when they brought out The Last Jedi, They laid foundation for three very important things which were wasted in the when they brought out The Force Awakens. They wasted three things that were wasted in The Last Jedi. They wasted Snoke, whatever the fuck his name is, as the potential villain. They wasted Rey, and they wasted Kylo Ren, the relationship between those two. In this last movie, the story is all political SJW bullshit. Mary Sue, everybody
Girl
can do
power.
No, it's not that. It's poor story. They made Rey a Mary Sue. They basically said, "Oh, I can be a Jedi just because reasons." It's like they pulled the same. If you want to make contrast, they did the same shit with Luke.
Did you feel it was forced?
Yes, it was forced because they wasted every single fucking opportunity they built up in The Force Awakens, and I hate The Force Awakens.
Well, that's the thing. Like for The Force Awakens, I'm like, okay, it's a new Star Wars. Okay, it's no Return of the Jedi or anything like that. But
that's not the point.
Well, exactly. But I did want to see more. I did want to see more about Kylo Ren and like the other Sith Lord.
They wasted it. This is why The Last Jedi sucks. They wasted everything they built in The Force Awakens. It doesn't. And the third point I was going to get to, it doesn't matter if Luke, Han, and Leia go bye-bye. That's the natural progression of a universe. The thing about the expanded universe is Disney picks and chooses what they want, and it's disgraceful. They simply could have saved themselves a lot of problems by saying, hey, all you guys over here, that if you don't like your films, okay, the expanded universe stuff, you can go on over in this universe. Our new 3 movies in expanded universe are over in this timeline. They disrespected everybody by saying, no, your old stuff don't mean shit. Just to get that, just to get that out of the way. The reason I hate The Last Jedi, and I agree with Razor Fist, and besides, haha, I told you so. They wasted every single little bit of opportunity they built up in A Force Awakens. They could have expanded Rey's character. There was good character development in a possible not romantic relationship, but kind of like they're between Kylo Ren and Rey. They could have had banter, kind of like you had with well, how the Jedi and Sith are supposed to act. They waste that. They kill off Snoke. Like, where the fuck did he go? They're not doing anything with Finn, and they wasted what was her name, Captain Phasma. Yeah, why? I mean, Christy Gwendolyn is a very underrated actress, and she could have had such a great potential for this film. They wasted everything, all to squeeze in the Mary Sue bullshit. And yes, it's the girl power thing, but my daughter will tell you, my daughter's a lesbian, by the way, and she will tell you this is bullshit. She hates it because it forces everything to be in your face and accept it whether you like it or not.
Do you think that if they weren't trying to just almost kind of shove it down maybe people's throats? I mean, I haven't seen it, so I can't testify to that yet. But if they weren't trying to almost force a message, do you think they could have done something very similar? But if, like you said, they built from what they had established.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I disagree with a lot of people on is they're trying to say, which yes, The Force Awakens did do this. They did kind of mimic. They did kind of mimic A New Hope, but that, and if anybody ever asked me on that, I'll say there are different problems with that because of a lot of other reasons. And I'm not here to trash people who like Star Wars, the new movies. That's fine. I don't have to like them. I'm 40-some years old. I don't have to give a shit. If it doesn't tell, because let's be honest, mythologies always repeat themselves no matter what form they take. So everything that happened in the first 3 movies kind of happened in the
Normally
prequels.
a mythology, though, takes a few generations.
Can I finish,
not the
please?
Next generation.
Can I finish, please?
No.
They did the same thing with the first 3 movies where they had the mythologies and the archetypes, correct. They did a similar thing with the prequels, but it wasn't the same structure. And you're right. You don't force the next generation to repeat the mythologies of the generation before. You have to let them base on the previous mythologies, but have their own legacy, if nothing else, and they failed to do that. This is why The Last Jedi is terrible. Not because it's visually stunning, not because people can't invest in it, enjoy it, and just go to a film and have a good time. I would never say that to anybody. There's a lot of bad movies I love that people hate, but hey, it's just the movie. But when you want people to invest in your characters, when you want to build a new trilogy or expand a franchise in a positive manner, this is not how you go do it. Which one of you said if they would have taken another year, it would have probably been better? Because you're right.
Well,
They would have taken it.
That was.
Oh, yeah, and I was just gonna say, like, what if they even just held off on the new trilogy or whatever, and instead of like a Han Solo movie, they did Knights of the Old Republic, go back into the past and use some of those books that they just threw out.
Well, then that's going to get them in trouble because they've already opened their damn pie hole saying that the extended universe doesn't exist anymore, and that's going to get them a lot of shit and a lot of ridicule. But Disney doesn't give a shit. Kathleen Kennedy is this uber social justice warrior jack off, and my daughter basically says she's basically a queen bitch. She doesn't give a damn about what Lucas and Lucasfilm set up and all this other kind of stuff. She's just there to make money and get a goddamn paycheck. That's what they're all there for. And everybody who goes to see this, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, bite my ass. Sliced bread is the greatest thing since Betty White and Stan Lee, so fuck off. But it's not that they shouldn't do these movies. They should take more time with these movies.
If Zero, like you said, if they do end up starting to siphon off money and the board of directors is like, we're continually grossing less and less off of these movies, they could always vote her out. Or at least give her the
I don't
message.
work there, so I have no answer to that. My point is, they've wasted mass potential for this movie. I'm not talking as a Star Wars fan, because I'm not really a Star Wars fan. I like the movies, the old ones. I can even tolerate the prequels. Hell, I went to see Star Wars when I was 4 in the theater in 1977. And
how was that, man?
That was awesome.
Dude, I'm just imagining, because like I still remember like seeing early movies like E.T. and shit like that. You see that on the big screen, like it's amazing, man.
But they had a mythology they could have continued on with in a different form, because mythologies are roughly always the same in some manner, but they changed the story structure to where it emulates something supposedly fresh and new. They had these characters that could have had great character build-up, because and I'm not referring to episodes 4, 5, and 6. I'm not going to call them that. When you watch Star Wars, when they came out, when you watch Star Wars and you watch The Empire Strikes Back and you watch Return of the Jedi, there was character development and build-up for all 3 main characters, including Chewie. I mean, you got to throw Chewie in there. Even the droids all had character development.
Wait. Luke, is Chewie in the last movie? Don't. No. I'm going to not like this now. You can pass. You can pass.
Did you not hear me when I said every character was wasted in this movie? That's not a drinking
cognitive
reference.
Dissidence. Leave me alone.
Okay. So, in the original movies, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, every character, Chewbacca, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, R2-D2, C-3PO, even Ben Kenobi, and Darth Vader most definitely, every character that was throughout the whole 3 movies, everyone had character development. Even if Ben Kenobi was a Force ghost, he was still there, and you realized he couldn't tell Luke the stuff that he wanted to, and that's part of character development, is sometimes that the people that you see as the oldest and wisest don't always have a clue what they're talking about, but they try to lead you the best they can, and you have to learn from their mistakes, if anything else. Finn, Rey, Poe, Dameron Poe, they're being wasted. They could be the new Luke, Han, and Leia for all I care for this trilogy. That's fine, but their characters were wasted. People die. Luke was going to die sooner or later. Han Solo was going to die sooner or later. Princess Leia was going to die. General Leia was going to die sooner or later. That's just the way life is. But when you bring on these new characters to not fill in their shoes, which is what they tried to do, but to try to expand that universe that was built upon that they're doing in the movie universe and say, hey, we're not trying to fill the shoes here. We're trying to make our own path, and we hope you join us on this journey. They're failing at this because they're bringing them out year after year after year. Is where every Star Wars movie has at least 2.5 to 3 years between release. That gave Lucas time to build the universe.
Not only that, if you look at the difference between the original trilogy and the new one that Lucas made, there was, 20 years in between? 30 years?
Well, see, the thing about the prequels is that actual material, depending on who you ask, either was there or wasn't there. And I think what killed that for a lot of people is Lucas tinkered too much with his own stuff, and he used too much CGI, because the Phantom Menace actually had a lot more practical effects than CGI, and the last two really had way too much CGI dependent upon. But that's neither here nor there. The Last Jedi, I don't like it because it doesn't tell a good story. It wastes everything that it was built up in The Force Awakens. And I don't like The Force Awakens, but God damn it, at least they were trying to bring in characters, because and I had an argument with somebody on Twitter about this, and then she backed off in under 5 seconds when I said, hey, Star Wars has always been multicultural. What films are you watching? And she's like, well, there's no black people. And I named at least 4. I said there's always a strong female, there's always a black dude, there's always aliens of various types and in various forms. There's always political stuff here, political stuff there, sociological stuff here, sociological stuff there. So, and that's always been what Star Wars is about, but it's really been a science fiction fantasy with those things integrated in. Or sorry, integrated.
It's got
Integrated.
Mixed in. Thank you, I can't say integrated.
But
Mixed in. So there's no reason for anybody to say, oh, there's too many white people, or there's too many men in this movie, and there's not enough of this, and there's not enough of this.
well, no, and I hate that
When
anyway.
when you start putting labels on things, you take away from the magic. I don't care if they have a character in there who's homosexual. So what? Can that character still do their job? Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. Sounds good. Good character. Doesn't matter if the person's black. Doesn't matter if they're Asian. It doesn't matter if they're Latino. Doesn't matter if they're old. Doesn't matter if they're young. Can those characters be used for the advancement of the story and given potential character growth? Yes. Great. No. Then you fucking waste everybody's time.
Exactly.
End of story.
Yeah, exactly. Like, since when do we need quotas in movies? Just tell a good story and the characters will play it out.
Just do your job.
But it was always the running joke with Kevin, and Kevin Smith, he pissed me off more than anybody. And being I'm the biggest old school Star Wars fan. If he was, he'd be more pissed off than I was that they couldn't tell the story right, that they wasted potential opportunity and character development for Rey, Finn, and Poe, which they did in this last movie. And you know what? And that's not J.J. Abrams' fault. That's the asshole who wrote this last movie. He basically disregarded everything J.J. Abrams did, whether you like Abrams or not. This Ryan fucking what's-his-name disregarded everything that Lucas and J.J. Abrams did, at least for their movies, because they're like, I'm the writer and the director. It's like, yeah, well, unless you're Martin Scorsese, he sucks. This guy can't fucking write and direct. Which is why Rogue One succeeded on a certain level, because they didn't have the same writer. The writers weren't the directors. Rogue One had its problems. Don't get me wrong, but and even if you knew where Rogue One was going to fill in a space between Episode 3 and Episode 4, of course, the Clone Wars and the cartoons and all that stuff. That's great because that fills in too. And that was also mentioned in the previous expanded universe, which is why I said they pick and choose. At least Rogue One, you knew where it was going to end. But I got more involved with Jyn Erso. I didn't want to see her die on the beach by a nuclear blast. I didn't want to see any of her friends die by a nuclear blast on the beach, just so they get the stolen plans of the Death Star in the hands of Princess Leia. And yeah, we knew where that was going, but great. But we had a journey to get from point A to point B, which led us to point C of Princess Leia getting her hands on the plans. That's why it was good. And you had Alan Tudyk as that big fucking robot motherfucker, and it's like, oh, Alan Tudyk's in this. Yeah, I got in because of that. And then it's like, okay, this is great because I like this and I like this and I like this. And sure, there was some weak story, and sure, she didn't seem as developed as she could, but that's an editing issue. But Jyn Erso was at least a character akin to Princess Leia who tried and who actually gave a shit. You just killed her off too goddamn fast.
Did you watch the Clone Wars Zero, like the animated series?
I started with the first season. I'm not much of I don't watch too much TV. But
I know the only reason I ask is there was one point, and I think it was season 5 or season 6. They touched upon some deep stuff, like literally like Anakin like having a prequel, like basically seeing his future, but then his mind, like they went to like the actual Sith Lord planet. They delved in some interesting lore there. So I'm just curious if you've seen it.
Yeah, I remember reading up on that because I like to read wikis and I like to read on plot lines and everything.
Yeah.
So if somebody actually gets into a conversation with me, I can say, "Oh yeah, I remember reading that." I'm not much of a TV watcher, but when I tell people what I think of The Last Jedi, nobody has had the balls to come to me and say, "You're a racist" or "You're a sexist" or any of this other shit, because it's not true. When I say the very simple things of which I've reiterated at least 5 times already, they wasted the potentials for characters and character development by having a bad story and poor plot lines and literally a subplot which goes nowhere, which unfortunately Finn fell victim to. Then that's not a movie.
It sounds like they just got lazy.
They did get lazy because they have the ego and the money to get lazy. Which is why I said this is bullshit. And then you had an interaction. You never found out whose Rey's parents were, by the way. And you have an interaction between Kylo Ren and Rey that could have been the dynamic bounce, could have been a similar dynamic to Obi-Wan and Anakin on a certain level, or Darth Vader and Luke on a certain level, not the family, but just the way they act towards each other. That gets squashed. And I'm like, why are you wasting our time with this shit? Well, do you know why they're wasting our time? It's because people will say, "Oh, I'm going to go see it simply because it says Star Wars." I had a similar discussion with somebody over Megadeth versus Metallica on two certain albums, and I said, "Well, the only reason this album sold so well is because it strictly said Metallica on it. But I felt this Megadeth album was better," and I gave my reasons. And they said, "No, you don't know what you're talking about." It's like, then don't ask me my opinion. Don't ask me what I think.
So they were angry because you gave your honest opinion, and they may have felt that way, or they were just kind of going along with what folks were saying.
They were basically going along with what folks are saying, because when I broke down everything that I broke down with you guys, because when I came in, I wasn't mad or anything. I was just like really hyper, because when people want to talk about this shit, I really get going.
You're passionate, brother.
And when I make specific points about why I didn't like The Last Jedi, I bring up every single thing I said, and I bring up scenes in the movie where it worked
I think you're
and where it didn't
brother.
work.
Not used.
That's not me.
Yeah, it was Mr. Keck. Oh, I think we're good.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So when somebody asks me on my opinion, I don't necessarily always give my opinion. I say, this is what I think of the movie. Here's why I like it. Here's why I don't like it. And here's the things that were in the movie that you can tangibly see to back me up on what I think about the movie.
You were just being objective. That's fine.
And they take it as a personal attack, or they think I'm being over-opinionated.
Well, that's because that's what they get told to think by other people.
Exactly. And so I agree with Mad Dodge. I agree with a lot of people when they say, yeah, they're putting these out too fast. Yes, they are. If they were to say, we're going to have, if they thought that The Force Awakens was less than spectacular, and they go see this and everybody's like, well, this is all that's good about it. See, that's kind of the thing. People have this inconsistency with things these days. They either say, they're either going to go to the negative or they're going to go way to the positive. Nobody has a center of balance anymore. Well, me being 40-some years old, I don't give a shit. I'll like what I like. I'll dislike what I'm going to like. But if somebody says, hey, this isn't normally your thing, but give it a shot, I'm going to go in without my ego, and I'm going to check myself at the door, and I'm going to remove all previous trains of thought and say, all right, I'll give it my time. If nothing else, maybe I'll find something that's all right that I missed. And I usually do.
So it kind of sounds like you just go in to have a good time, whereas a lot of folks are kind of, I don't want to say virtue signal, but yeah, a lot of it kind of seems like...
It happens on both ends if you think about it.
Oh, exactly. It goes both ways. Do you think part of your objectivity may have come that you said you were a little bit older, basically maybe not be having as much influence from social media in your life?
I think it's the fact that I'm from the generation that didn't grow up with immediate social media. I've got grandnieces that know what Facebook is because their mommy's on Facebook, and that's one thing to share your photos with family across the globe and all that, and keep in touch. That's fine, but they grow up watching. They don't watch TV much, and they'll watch videos on YouTube, and they'll get to see all long episodes of whatever the kids want to watch, and they don't have. And it's not because it's a babysitting tool. It's like, well, I've got something to do for a couple hours. the kids have been good. Their reward is they can watch 4 or 5 episodes of. I can probably find something on YouTube that'll accommodate for that time. Okay, good. And the kids will come back to it and they'll say, oh, we missed something. You can go back on it instead of having to worry about a commercial or something. And it's not a big deal. As to where I was like, you know, you run outside, you run inside, you run outside, run inside. What are you, born in the barn? Close the damn door. You know, I grew up with a record.
Dude, riding around to your friend's house on a bike?
Yeah, and I actually went out from like 10 in the morning till 11 at night and played. And then Nintendo struck, but regardless.
Well, exactly, man. Exactly. Like I hear you, man. And hey, I ain't that much younger than you. I still remember going out to play. I still remember calling someone on the phone and asking, hey, is Robbie home? Not where you at. Is so-and-so home?
Yeah, no, and Magic Bollocks, I have 1-year-old twins. They like to torture each other over everything. So, yeah, your first time on the Redeye, there is children in the background. Sorry, man.
I was going to say, Mr. Bullocks, do you follow the Star Wars franchise at all?
Yeah, you've got me on a subject that I know next to fuck all about, to be honest.
I wasn't sure. Well, we could always.
That's exactly why I was letting Zero get on with it, because I thought he could cover the entire subject, with not miss anything out, and he'd be like, "Well done, mate. I don't have to talk about anything about this subject. We'll just move."
And you still get nailed anyway. Whoops.
No, I saw the originals when I was a kid, and I think I've had no interest ever since. I mean, even when the prequels came out and everybody was saying, "Oh, you've got to see it," and all that other crap.
What were your thoughts on the originals? Well, sorry, bud.
They're all right. It's funny. It's just some things you do get into and some things you don't, which is I can watch them, but it's not sort of something that I particularly think to myself one evening, I've got nothing to do, I'm bored. Oh no, I'll watch Star Wars. No, it just doesn't.
Just not really your cup of tea.
I don't know why. I mean, the thing is, I can't really claim like some kind of moral superiority here because I'm a big Doctor Who fan. So it's not a case of I don't like sci-fi. It's just that Star Wars seems a bit. To me, it was like George Lucas's big wet dream that he somehow managed to get onto the big screen with somebody else's money. But
well, Star Wars isn't science fiction; it's science fantasy. It's always been that way, and so was Flash Gordon. So I'm just only making the minor correction there. People say it's sci-fi, science fiction. No, it's actually science fantasy. It's technically a space opera. Always has been.
Yeah. What?
And Doctor Who actually shifts between science fiction and science fantasy quite well. And the reason it's done so is not only has been going on off and on for 50 years, but they've had a fluctuating cast, 13 plus variants of the Doctor, different actors and a couple actresses playing the Doctor, so you get all different type of perspective, and that's been going on since the late the 60s. In that geopolitical change across the board, so that's fine. But Star Wars can't do that. Star Trek can to an extent, but Star Wars can't do that.
Well, they're trying to do it in Star Wars, aren't they? By basically killing off all the original cast of what I've seen, but. Again,
but it's like I said. Sooner or later, the original cast, they're all going to die. Not in real life either, in reference, but the characters do die. They died in the actual expanded universe later on down the road. In fact, when my friend Kim said, "Hey, they're making another Star Wars movie that takes place after Return of the Jedi," I just basically like, "Oh my God, here we go." And she goes, and this is long before we knew it would be what the shit we got. And they go, well, what if it's about Han and Leia's kid? I said, ooh, the Young Jedi Academy, when they're growing up and all that, And we started going off on it, and then we find out it's this. She goes, oh, I'll also watch it. I'm like, oh, they had so much material they could have worked with. But Star Wars can't do what Doctor Who does. And I'm going to say it right now in front of everybody who actually gives a shit. I don't care if the next Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, or whatever the fuck her name is, if she's a female. Who gives a shit? There's been many times in Doctor Who where they've mentioned that there have been female Time Lords, and that the Doctor himself could have been born, it could have been, made a woman. Who gives a shit? Get over it, people. It's just a show.
I respect your opinion, Zero. I choose to ignore it.
Anyway. I wasn't paying attention. What?
No, it's that's a very divisive argument. I have my own opinions, but to me that was just a decision of desperation on the Beeb's part. Well,
Oh, you can't argue that. In fact, what's his name? The doctor that was the obnoxious one. He had the blonde hair and curls and shit. He was actually one of
Colin Baker. Yeah,
Colin Baker. I think not him as a person, but I think his character, his version of Doctor actually made the reference to he could possibly become a female doctor and he would have had a problem with it. So it's but yeah, I do think that the BBC handled it poorly. But anyway, going back to Star Wars.
Yes. Well, I said that you boys carry on talking for ever long you want.
Well, let's touch upon this. Zero, you touched upon a very interesting point. Basically, the Young Jedi Academy. What if this is all part of Disney's 5D chess, and they're doing this so then they can then go back and do another trilogy using the other material, thereby making episodes 1 through 3, which are now technically episodes 4 through 6, then do episode. I don't know. Do you think that they would do something like that?
They're not Donald Trump smart. First and foremost, President. They're not President Trump smart. They can't play 4D chess for shit, let alone 5D chess. And when they opened their pie hole and officially confirmed that the expanded universe, which came before the Force Awakens ever being made, was officially inherently disregarded and does not exist as canon, they fucked themselves in the ass. And Kathleen Kennedy just basically put her face in a big old sink full of hydrochloric acid because they can't save face on this. Too bad.
Couldn't they change their mind?
No, I don't give a shit if they do or not. I'm too old to give a fuck. And but I'm also one of those people that said, "Oh, I remember when you all said this over here. Ha ha, call it." Hypocrisy. That's the one thing I can't stand.
Everyone's hypocritic once in a while.
Yes, but on a mass scale such as this, to say everything that many people, every comic book that came out before this, the Force Awakens, every video game that came out before that, every story, every timeline that filled in the gaps of history from millions of years before the Battle of Yavin to hundreds and hundreds of years after the Battle of Yavin, to say, nope, that doesn't exist. Disney, J.J. Abrams basically disrespected George Lucas's intent, no matter if he sold his licensing or sold his thing for $4 billion. That's not my problem. That's not the point. There were people authors, fans of the original movies, that everything they did, even if there was some contradiction in time, like if there was time discrepancies, Lucas literally was say, yes, I approve this. Yes, I approve this. Yes, this makes sense. Or no, I don't like this. Or yes, I approve this. No, I don't approve this. That's what Disney did. They spit in the face of every single person who loves Star Wars.
No,
I mean, worse than I do.
No,
I'm not a big fan, but I'm just saying. Huh?
Did they force George Lucas? Did they kind of strong arm him?
No, because once he took the $4 billion, and they said, "Yeah, fuck everything George Lucas did. We're nothing counts."
Yeah, but people have argued way back when Deep Space Nine first came out. It was shortly after Roddenberry died. And they had argued the same thing, that Deep Space Nine wasn't Star Trek. It has nothing to do with Gene's dream. And guess what? Deep Space Nine's my favorite Star Trek.
Deep Space Nine was more Star Trek than Discovery could ever hope to be, and a smidge more than Voyager tries to be. And if you want to talk to anybody about that, you talk to Razorfist. You don't talk to me.
Well, I would love to talk to Razorfist about Star Trek, but I don't think I'm even on his radar.
Well, I'm not. He just follow him on Twitter, watch his YouTube videos, leave comments on Twitter, because he does respond to people. He's doing the whole Star Trek series right now in review. He's only up to episode 2.
Oh shit! Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to go over there and watch that. Thank you. But the only reason I brought up Star Trek is because they said the same thing about that, and Deep Space Nine ended up being great. Now it was great.
What the difference was? You know what the difference was is that Berman and the other guys that work with Gene Roddenberry that did the Next Generation were also working on Deep Space Nine, and Majel Barrett said, "Yeah, this is something Gene would like." Not those exact words, but his wife and his son said, "Yeah, my dad would probably go with something like this." So they had the family involved. They had people that worked on the Next Generation who grew up with Star Trek saying, yeah, this is something that would be prevalent in the Star Trek universe. And on top of that, Deep Space Nine was a spinoff that took place right after Best of Both Worlds. So there's no, all this kind of crap happens. You've already been introduced to the Ferengi, the Bajorans, the Cardassians. You start with Ben Sisko and all this other stuff, and you get basically happening in the same universe as Next Generation, which is all canon to what happened with Kirk and Spock and McCoy. So,
yeah, fair enough.
Again,
they didn't really.
Again,
Yeah,
if
they
you
didn't.
want, yeah, it's different than what's going on with Star Wars, and it's different than
Yeah.
what's going on with Doctor Who. It's different than what's going on with a lot of science fiction and a lot of science fantasy these days, because here's the simple truth. The baby boom generation, they're all trying to get what they can get before they die. And they're leaving the rest of us to be bereft, whether it's money, politics, social standards, commentary, creativity. The age of America is the best kind of shit is gone by the wayside, and it's something that Japan and China have taken up, and to at least be creative and to strive to be number one. And that's a whole different subject, which I'm not going to get into. But
Well, yeah, I think
the matter is, things are dying down, and we've got to revitalize stuff, and they're not doing it the right way. This is why we have the problems we have with movies, music, television in general.
Well, yeah, and I think Disney threw the baby out with the bathwater on this one. They really should have just took their time and picked and chose what they put on the screen, but left the books alone.
Yeah, they could have. As I said earlier, they could have simply had a win-win to where me and a bunch of other people would have not given a shit about the movies if they said, hey, all this stuff that came before what we're doing, it's over in timeline A. We're starting our new timeline, jumping off with the Return of the Jedi, and we're timeline B, and they can still utilize the stuff from the previous history, no problems, everybody's happy. Nope. The only people that did that shit was, let me see, Star Trek. You can actually watch the 2009 Star Trek, and it jumps off with the it changes its entire course from the line of where Kirk is born and goes off in the timeline B, and everything that happened in Enterprise, Next Generation, the original series, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, all still count. No problems. But nope.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go back to something Magic Bollocks here actually knows about, I see you talking in the chat. You want to say that question out loud? I think that's a pretty good one. I'm not a big Doctor Who fan, but I have watched a few episodes.
Oh, you mean the question I just asked, you mean?
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, well, I was about to ask something similar to Zero, which is when he was saying about how, things like movies and music and, general, mainstream culture has gone to shit. I mean, what would you suggest we could do to sort of turn it around, or is it too late? Is the rot too centralized now?
We would have to have a worldwide catastrophic event of some type for everything to get, and that's the fallacy of my statement as well, to get back to where we were, because there's an old saying. I remember watching Grosse Point Blank, and John Cusack's character calls his doctor, Dr. Oates, who's played by Alan Arkin, and says, and he's standing in the middle of, or he's standing in front of where his old house was, and it's now like a 7-Eleven or some shit. So he calls Dr. Oates and says, Dr. Oates, I guess you're right, you can't go home again. Actually from Keats or somebody like that. I don't quote me on that. I don't know who the author is or the writer is for that, male or female. But that's basically the fact that you can't go home again because you can never relive that time of childhood to where everything's pure and magical or stay gold pony boy kind of thing. We can't get to that, which is the fallacy of my statement. We need a worldwide catastrophic event to take us back to what we once had, but that's impossible because it doesn't work that way. So what happens is, this is why we have the golden age. We have the golden age of this, we have the golden age of that, we have the silver age of this, we have the silver age of that, we have the bronze age of this, the bronze age of that, and then we have the modern age. This is why we don't have to suffer with the modern age. We can take what we like and acknowledge only the golden age, silver age, and bronze age, because we live very limited lives and a very limited lifespan. And we don't have to accept the modern age. That's what the great thing about choice is. But when people take choice away from us, therein lies the problem. And I noticed that a lot of people left once I started going on my rant about Star Wars. I must have scared the fuck out of a lot of people, both in here and the audience.
Wait, are we still talking about
we
Doctor
just
Who?
enjoy listening to your infinite wisdom.
Finite wisdom is more like it. But no, that's the same. But that does go back to Doctor Who. The question is, I want to read the question out loud because I think it's a very good one, because it's very poignant. Let me just scroll down here. So my question is, how will they be able to regenerate the Doctor back into a male now without feminazi outrage? I don't know, because the way people act like juvenile delinquents, they probably can't. And here's the thing. I haven't watched Doctor Who since Matt Smith, because honestly, I don't watch TV much, and I just couldn't keep up with it. But I've read, I didn't have a problem with Matt Smith. I liked him. I liked David Tennant. I liked every Doctor in their incarnation. I really want to take all the social justice warrior propaganda bullshit out of the way. Just take all that shit out of the way. I want Jodie Whittaker to be a successful first female version of this Doctor, because there are already female Time Lords. A lot of people don't remember this. This shows you that people don't actually know their source material. It's like when they try to bullshit comics and diversity and Captain Cummings in regards to the comic books. These people are virtue signaling left, right, and center, and they don't know jack shit about the original material. There's nothing.
So we need to go back to the 90s.
No, I'm just saying in general. They don't know jack shit about the material.
Yeah.
So I want Jodie Whittaker. So I personally want Jodie Whittaker to be a very successful Doctor Who. I have no problems with the female Doctor Who. I think that'd be fucking great. In fact, that's one of the things I said when I first heard they were bringing back Doctor Who, and I had Christopher Eccleston. I said, "Oh, hey, what if they had a female Doctor? That'd be kind of awesome." That still doesn't change for me, because the Doctor can do that. It's within the parameters of the character that the Doctor can be white, black, tall, short, fat, skinny, male, female, have whatever else David Tennant ever said about 15 different hands and body parts, and even a different, species altogether. Could come back as a fucking lore. Yeah, it's in the lore, and that doesn't change. The problem is they've changed the lore in Star Wars. They've tried to change the lore in Star Trek with Discovery. You see what I'm getting at here. So I think the feminazis will freak out either way. And that shows you that they don't know jack shit about the character, and they have no respect for the character of the series or Jodie Whittaker as an actress. Unlike me, yours truly, who's 40-some years old, has a black wife and a mulatto daughter who's lesbian and serves in the military and actually knows the fucking lore. Yeah, I'm the bad guy. Fuck.
Yeah. Do you know, the funny thing is, though, that if it was a female Time Lord, like if they reintroduced, I don't know, someone like Romana or something like that, I don't think they'd reintroduce her as a man, because of the very fact that you can't have a woman change into a man by their sort of rules, can you? That would be regressive, wouldn't it? And the thing, if these, it's a bit like, as I said in the chat earlier on, they're trying to do the same thing they tried to do last year with Ghostbusters, which was turn the whole cast female and then deflect all criticism away by just throwing the insult at anybody with any criticism, just call them sexist, misogynistic, and all that shit.
And that was, and I'm not going to go into strict details about that. That was a mess, because the problem wasn't the actresses. I've seen all those actresses in other movies, and I adore Kate McKinnon. I don't care if she's a lesbian and a leftist and all this other shit. She is fucking funny. She has done a lot of stuff. I've seen all the actresses in different things, and they are genuinely funny. They have talents. The problem with that movie was it should have been a continuation to where they acknowledged the original series and they passed the torch, and they could have done their own thing. But the fucking writers and fucking Amy Pascal and Sony, they all just fucking retarded. That's why that movie sucked. It had a poor script, underutilized actors and actresses, and Chris Hemsworth, he apparently didn't fucking need the money. What did you do the movie for?
Well,
That's why
yeah,
Ghostbusters 2016 had a problem.
I think maybe a chance to actually use his.
It wasn't the all-female cast. I can sure as hell tell you that.
I expect he was just a chance to use his actual native dialect for once. Most people didn't even realize he was probably Australian.
Right.
Well, and I love Ghostbusters. I've watched the cartoon as a kid. I've seen all the movies. Dan Aykroyd is one of my favorite actors, but I'm a big Blues Brothers fan also, so that's probably why. But no, the way they set up Ghostbusters in the lore is they wanted it to be like a fire station, so every city would have a Ghostbuster place, right? So they totally could have made an all-woman cast and just not had it in New York. Set it up in Chicago or whatever.
Well, technically it took place in Boston, but they called it New York.
That's fucking stupid. I didn't watch the new movie, and my wife didn't either. We were like, no, they fucked up Ghostbusters. We're not going to watch it.
How do you guys think I feel about growing up with Transformers Generation 1 for all its flaws? It was simply a toy line that they made a cartoon around, and of course it was going to have its errors. And then Transformers the movie comes out, and then for Michael Bay to put his fucking fingers on it. How do you think I feel?
Oh, I'm amongst friends tonight.
Robots in
disguise. Exactly what I told people. I said, if you bitch if you bitch about Ghostbusters 2000, I just called it Ghostbusters. I didn't do the 2016. I said, if you do bitch about this about Ghostbusters, or you have a problem with this, or you have a problem with that, and you say, oh well, it doesn't matter. It's just Transformers. Motherfuckers, how do you think I felt? And then I ran across somebody who said, Dade, the stuff that you grew up with doesn't change. It's just being put into these movies that you don't like. You can ignore these movies all you want. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. You're right. And I did. And one person said to me, well, what's your biggest... And when the first Transformers movie came out and said, what's your biggest beef? I said, why do you look like shit? They go, what are you talking about? I said, you've seen Iron Man, right? And they're like, yeah. How good did he look? That's a suit of armor. You can't make these guys look awesome? And everyone's like, God damn it, you got a point. Yeah, that was my only beef. I didn't have to watch anything else. Like I said, fuck these movies. Why can't you make them look good, though? You spent all this money on everything else. You can't make them look good? Why are you seeing circuits here, left, and they're robots? And I named, okay, let's see, C-3PO, R2-D2, Maria from Metropolis, the Terminator, and I got in this thing about their body types and how are they designed. I said, yeah, but they still look good. And if these are fucking robots that transform from big fucking 30-plus foot tall robots to very small and compact vehicles compared to their original size, why wouldn't they have the capability to look good? Because they wouldn't be so stretched out to where their wires would show, because when they compact back in their vehicle or whatever mode, that wouldn't work. And they're like, oh, you're thinking about it too technical. I go, no, it's just an aesthetic. If you're a giant 30-foot fucking foot tall robot, and you have to go from Optimus Prime to a truck, when you're the truck, do we see your circuits? Do we see the inside? Where does all that shit go? This is why, if there's a suspension of disbelief, why they couldn't look good. They should be able to have extra plating to cover up everything and be flexible. And maybe when they run, if you look at the IDW universe and everything else about how they make the Transformers look and how everything's explained, they could have simply pulled from that. I was like, oh yeah, that looks. No, this is how I feel about Transformers. That's exactly how people say they feel about Ghostbusters. Well, they have the right to feel so, and I'm not going to tell them otherwise.
Yeah, I quite agree with that, because I was the same as you, Zero. I loved the Transformers. I still do. I've got behind me, God knows how much money spent on Masterpiece Transformer toys, as my other half calls them, in a display cabinet. And I will continue to love the original cartoon for the rest of my days. So, of course, when the original, 2007 film came along, I was really, really excited to finally see them, live action. And then, of course, all the information started coming out. And just like you, when I saw them, it was like, oh, my God, what have they done? I mean, okay, I can understand. You've got to update them. They can't look exactly as they did in the 80s.
Right.
But the main problem is, I mean, I don't know if you've actually bothered to sit down and watch many of them, Zero, but you can't tell which one's which when they're fighting. And that's the main problem. You get like a group of them, like you did in the original cartoons. You could tell which one was which. This one, you don't know who's who. So how do you know who to root for? Who's actually winning? Who's doing what? And Bay is such a shit editor that you'll go from the start of a fight straight to the end with sort of like a little bit of the middle put in somewhere else. And
Yeah.
it just,
5 explosions in between.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's such a massive opportunity wasted. It really, really is. I mean,
yeah. See, this is the exact point that I'm getting about Star Wars, Doctor Who, and everything else of modern movies and TVs. Because the thing is, we ran out of ideas a long time ago. That doesn't, and they did the same thing with Transformers. They brought out different versions of Transformers, gave the characters the same name, but it wasn't a continuation. It's like, oh, that's great, Transformers for, you know, my kids or my, you know, grandnieces and my, you know, my great, you know, younger kids. Great, they have their Transformers too. That's cool, and they're not fucking it up. But the Michael Bay movies, that's exactly how I feel about. That's what I tell about them. Say, you think I give a shit about, you know, this is why I don't like Star Wars now. This is why I don't like this. This is why I don't like that. You say you have all these opportunities to do things and you keep fucking it up because they've run out of ideas and they don't respect the lore. They don't respect the mythologies and they don't respect the ideas that these things were originally based on. And MC, I owe you an apology. I didn't mean to be rude, but my point was, the mythologies of Star Wars continually do repeat, but they're played out a separate way. And I apologize if I was rude to you. But that's the thing. When somebody says, well, and if I hear anybody bitch about certain things, I say, I don't give a shit. How do you know, you kind of gave me it. You kind of like, oh, it's just Transformers. Let it go. No, don't fucking tell me to let it go. When they did the G.I. Joe movies, I didn't have a problem with them. I was like, all right, it's G.I. Joe. Well, this sucks. And I go, why? Well, there's not the same cast per the two movies, to say the least, I've heard from many people. I said, yeah, but G.I. Joe was this large international team with multinational characters.
People in and out.
Yeah, so who cared? And for as bad as the first one was, I thought the second one was better. And that's saying a lot. They did a good job. It's G.I. Joe. It's a team of army people, basically, from all walks of life. And they're doing their thing and they're fighting Cobra. Duh.
I haven't seen the second one, but I get the impression that they decided that the first film was bad, so they decided to kill off all the characters from the first film just so they could bring in a load of new characters.
Well, the thing is, they didn't actually bring in any new characters. All the characters that were in the first movie and the second movie were characters established in the 80s cartoon. The characters in the second movie weren't used in the first movie, so there's nothing that says you can't watch both of them and like what you like out of either one. Because Roadblock wasn't in the first movie. Lady J wasn't in the first movie. Flint wasn't in the first movie. They brought back Jinx wasn't in the first movie. They brought the Blind Master wasn't in the first movie. The Rashikage wasn't in the first movie. They brought back Cobra Commander, who looked better. They brought in Firefly. They brought back Storm Shadow with the same actor. They brought back Snake Eyes. And it was a continuation of the story. So what should have been a trilogy done maybe a little better was put into two movies. And neither one of them, if you take them for what they are bad on a whole. I just didn't like Channing Tatum. He was a terrible Duke. But I love Dennis Quaid as Hawk because, that's in the first movie. Yeah, this is exactly what Hawk would say. And Storm Shadow acted like Storm Shadow. Snake Eyes looked like Snake Eyes. The Baroness was the Baroness. And was not a bad Destro. I just think they should have gave him the awesome mask, not the little nanotech bullshit. But, and they fixed Cobra Commander by the second movie. So it all built up from the first movie to the second movie, which they could have done a third movie. That wasn't so bad. And I grew up with G.I. Joe, and that's the one thing my dad said. That's the point my dad made to me, being 77 years old. He goes, I remember you watching this when you were a kid. And I'm like, yeah. And he says, they always had characters of everybody in there, so don't worry about them if you think the movies suck. He had a point. So
yeah. It's a difficult thing trying to turn an 80s cartoon that we all loved into something we're going to love as adults, because we're all adults now, so we can find faults in these things that as a kid we wouldn't even notice. Because I still watch the original Transformers cartoons occasionally, and it's funny.
Oh, I do too, and I just laughed my ass off. And I said, I can't believe I thought this was the fucking shit back in the day when there's all these flaws that just make it so much more fun. You don't take shit seriously. But that's the problem. You've got all the kids that, hey, Unholy Mole, you got all these guys that grew up with this stuff that are now working at Disney that are now in positions of power fucking everything up because they think that their interpretation can be better than what that originally grew up with because they see the flaws.
Yeah.
And it's people like and then there's people like Kathleen Kennedy who are fucking stuff up. She just doesn't give a shit.
Well,
I know.
Nobody ever thinks it's, you know, it's always funny until somebody gets hurt. And they don't give a shit. They're just trying to make money.
Well, Zero, we were talking about how they keep throwing in this diversity just for diversity's sake. Say what you want about Terminator 3, but the female Terminator wasn't a bad way to go, and it didn't mess with the story.
I actually thought that was great.
Yeah, so did I.
I actually thought that was great. I thought that was great because that, again, to repeat back to what we've talked about before, the Terminators are infiltrators. The Arnold Schwarzenegger model is just that model. They've had multiple model of Terminator infiltrators, and no one ever said you couldn't have a Terminator infiltrator that looked like a female, because if you think about it, by the general standard of the way people think, which we know this is not true, most people think that women are weak. So if you're a Terminator, if you're designed to look like a woman to infiltrate and be stealthful, why would you not be a woman?
Dumb bots.
Exactly. But the Schwarzenegger model was a strict army infantry model. And again, but getting back to the point, there's not really much diversity when it comes to killing machines because they're going to do what they're going to do to achieve their missions.
Yeah. What's going on, Mr. Moley?
Oh, not much. How's it going, guys?
Chatting.
I'm working on about a gallon of water here, Mole. What are you up to?
I just got back from. I took my one of my good friends. His mom's in the hospital in ICU, so I've been down there for the last 2 days, pretty much all day. Fucking, you know. So it is what it is. I mean, you got to be there for your friends when they need you. So
gotta do what you got.
It means the good and the bad. That's right. So, but you know, she's doing better. They had her intubated, and her blood pressure was fucking so out of whack that they were giving her IV dopamine to raise her blood pressure. It was so low. I mean, it was like, I was in the medical field for years, so her blood pressure dropped to 50/25. I went and got the nurse immediately. I'm like, she's like on the verge of death, so you need to get in here right now. And so they came in and jacked her dopamine up, and they took the tube out today, and she's her blood pressure stabilized, so she's doing better.
So, if we can help raise your serotonin levels, what are your thoughts on 80s cartoons?
I love 80s cartoons. I was born in 77, so that's what I grew up watching. You know? That's what I grew up watching.
I don't want to divert the stream here, but I want to make a note of something that let me see if I find it real quick. The Moondog 15 said Power Rangers reboot was great. Yeah, I agree. And here's the reason why I agree. It was meant for a new generation of kids. They're not disregarding anything, and they still do the American version on TV, which has been going on since 1990, and they still do the Japanese series, which has been going on since 1975. I don't think that the Power Rangers movie was bad. I think it had some flaws, but I liked what they did with Rita Repulsa and made her the Green Ranger, which if they do another movie, which I think they are, and they're going to have the Green Ranger, that intensifies the lore of the mystique of the Green Rangers, which took a long time to flesh out and was a lot sillier in the American versions, considering it was being translated from the Japanese Sentai. So I didn't think the previous movie was all that bad, and I liked the fact that the only problem I had with it, they focused a little too much on Billy.
But my Dragon Zord.
Well, you know, you guys might hate me for this, but even as a kid, I fucking hated Power Rangers. I was always a Teenage Ninja Turtle guy. I was always with the Turtles.
What's wrong with that? I'm just strictly making the comparison that I didn't think that the movie of Power Rangers that came out, what was this year or last year, was bad because they didn't try to disrespect the entire continuity that's still going right now in Japan and in America on TV. They're basically trying to make something new, and they're integrating some stuff that they tried to fix in the original American rebroadcast of the Sentai with the Green Ranger, and I thought it was a good idea. And I actually liked, not only do I like Elizabeth Banks as an actress, I thought it was a good idea that Rita Repulsa was a rogue Power Ranger and turned to evil, because that's stuff that does happen. You get a group of good people, and there's sooner or later always one person that's going to go to the dark side, whether they like it or not.
Right. Whether it be
now, if you want to talk
or...
Ninja Turtles, I feel sorry for you. Now you know how I know. Now you know how the fuck I feel when it comes to Transformers, don't you?
Yeah, I did not like that Ninja Turtle movie. My kids like it, so I'll let them watch it. But that's not mine. That's not my Ninja Turtles. Hashtag not mine.
Right.
But you get the overall point of why people are making these movies, because they're playing off. And I'm not saying you're stupid, Mad Dodge, and I'm not saying anybody's stupid. They're playing off the parents' stupidity of kids being whiny brats and their nostalgia that, oh yeah, we can make this because kids are whiners and won't shut up, and parents will do anything to shut their kids up, so they'll go take them to watch our movie. That's exactly why they're doing these things.
I think it goes deeper than that. I think what they're playing is parents' nostalgia. Be like, oh, I loved that when I was a kid. I'll take my kid to see that. It'll be great. That's what they're doing, is playing on parents' nostalgia.
No, people are busy. It's like you hit the nail on the head there, brother. They're playing on the nostalgia and the fact like, oh, I saw this. My kids will like this. And even if the movie sucks or whatnot, they still got your money and the kids are going to still want the toys.
Exactly. Yeah. Welcome back, Zach.
So what do you know that you can? They got the entire run of TMNT, the original Mad, on YouTube. You can find it. Do you know that?
Oh, do you have to pay like $1.99 an episode or some shit, or is it free?
Nope, nothing at all. It's the entire. They got the entire 4 seasons for free, and it's
on
playlist too, so they're all there. And I believe they also got what else do they got? Oh, you guys remember Ghostbusters? They got Ghostbusters too. That was kind of. I don't know. You had to grow up in that era for you to like
the feminism Ghostbusters?
No,
the
correct Ghostbusters.
Okay, if you guys really want to go which one's correct or not, don't cross me. Because Filmation Ghostbusters came out first as a TV show, and then it was only through franchising and licensing rights did Ghostbusters from the Columbia Pictures get made, and that's why they have to call it the real Ghostbusters, not Ghostbusters, because there's the licensing issue. So,
are you talking about the animated one? Is that why it's called the real Ghostbusters?
Yeah, the movies with Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd was called Ghostbusters, but because the original TV show back in the 60s or 70s was called Ghostbusters, because one was a TV and one was a movie, they had to basically, it was no big deal, but then Filmation came out with Ghostbusters, a cartoon which was based off the old TV show. Then it was the franchising rights and licensing issue, which they basically said, yeah, you can call it Ghostbusters, because when we bring out the stuff that's based off of the movies, we're going to call it the real Ghostbusters. It's kind of like with milk and cheese made with real milk. Okay, what the fuck do you put in everything else? Fake milk?
You know what?
Fake cheese?
I've always wondered that.
Macaroni and cheese.
That's kind of like POTUS's Twitter, @RealDonaldTrump.
Yeah. Well, that would, at least with Twitter, you have, if you put in the real something, because there are people who make hack accounts, but that's different. But that's the reason why the Ghostbusters cartoon based off the Aykroyd, Murray, and Ramis movies was called The Real Ghostbusters.
Okay.
So if people actually did their, and I'm not saying you guys don't, I say if people in general did their histories about shit that they're passionate about, they would realize, oh yeah, and then they'd have all this ammo when it comes up to a discussion in which they are regularly engage in on topics that they know about. And everybody's like, oh, I can refute that. Yeah, good luck, fucker. There's history. There's history for that shit, so.
Oh,
Zero.
There's a difference. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, Zero, do you know some of the names that were considered by Columbia if they hadn't got the right to use the name Ghostbusters?
I would probably have to Google that.
That's good, because I don't either. I was just assuming you would.
The Phantom
No,
Phasers?
I'm not a big Ghostbusters fan. You ask James Rolfe, he might know.
The Ghoul Gang.
No, dude, the Slimer Show.
If you want to talk about titles and something interesting, the author of The Great Gatsby, after it was starting to be printed out, he wanted to rechange the title to Under the Red, White, and Blue. So, which kind of shifts...
F. Scott Fitzgerald?
Yes. Yes, and I had an entire English class, which was kind of interesting on how, before you started reading the book, if you judged it by its cover, what do you think the book was going to be about? And we had a very interesting discussion before and after reading the book of how you would have thought about the book depending on what the title was, and how your focus would either be on what happened with Gatsby himself throughout his personal character development, or what you thought of the American Dream as a whole, how the title would have changed your focus when reading it, which was kind of interesting. But that's
That is
just
an
a fun
interesting
fact. So I think there is a lot of power in a name, and I always find that thing kind of interesting, just going on a little side rant. Ugh, crap, now I made dead air.
No, you're fine.
No, but that's it.
No, I'm doing research.
Yeah, I just watched a documentary about F. Scott Fitzgerald the other day. Had a pretty interesting life, that's for sure. Pretty interesting life.
So
Has anybody ever read any Steinbeck at all? Has anybody ever read any John Steinbeck? I mean, besides of Mice and Men, obviously. I mean, didn't we all read that in high school?
No, not besides of Mice and Men.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
No, sir. I have heard of the author, though.
Okay, he wrote of Mice and Men, Tortilla Flat. What are some of his other? Do you remember the James Dean movie from the 50s, East of Eden? Is that what it was called? East of Eden? I think he wrote that too. Yeah, it's like a coming of age story, and it's age angst shit.
No, I got you, man. I got you. I'm not sure how many folks here are actually that familiar with that. I have heard of that though. But speaking of 80s cartoons, anybody watch Voltron?
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, I remember that. I remember watching that in Robotech.
Yeah, I'm surprised
when it wasn't originally called Robotech. It was supposed to be something else, but only Harmony Gold changed it to Robotech so they could put the syndication in America. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just I was always surprised because I remember growing up seeing Voltron, thinking this is awesome. Then Power Rangers comes out, and I'm like, whoa! I didn't know you could just blatantly steal someone's idea like that and make a shit ton of money.
Right. It's not only that, you know how Power Rangers first was produced, right? It was originally a Japanese show, and all he did
Super Sentai.
Yeah,
from 1975, so it beat Voltron by a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But what do you guys think the most cheesy 80s cartoon is? I'd have to vote He-Man.
Hey, I used to have a He-Man power sword. Don't fuck with He-Man.
No.
I'm just saying now, in hindsight, go back and watch it now.
But
I do watch He-Man, but I still don't think it's cheesy.
Oh, it's cheesy as shit.
Yeah, Mole, I'll give you that. I watched it with my kids because they have it on Netflix. I was like, oh my god, He-Man. What the fuck did I watch?
All right, how about this? He-Man versus Lionel.
God, if you're going to go to the Superman versus Goku shit, get the fuck out of here.
Hey, I ain't going there yet. I ain't going there yet. But this was a topic that we had.
Yeah. There's a lot of good 80s cartoons. There's a whole bunch.
Was Tailspin more 90s or did that start?
That was 1990s.
Okay.
Late 80s, early 90s.
No, it was 1990s.
Well, yeah,
89 maybe?
I was born in 84, so my cartoons kind of mixed together from 80s
yeah,
and
no,
90s.
same here, brother.
I think Tailspin is more of the 80s cause I don't remember it. Or I didn't watch that channel.
Cocktails.
1990s.
I was more of Nickelodeon.
Was it?
Hey, at least we're in the 90s now.
Tailspin, 1990 to 91.
I was watching Nickelodeon.
And here I am, a filthy millennial.
Dude, what was that like air surfboard that character had? He was just always like surfing on the clouds, flying behind the plane. I always thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
That was the character's name was Kit Cloud Kicker. He was a brown cub, and he was a navigator on the Sea Duck, and that is basically what it was. It was a cloud surfboard. Nothing special about it.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say nothing. That's pretty fucking special.
Well, they do that shit all the time when they jump out of planes. That's what they were basically basing it on.
Well,
it was called the Cloud Surfer to for a
That's what it was.
crescent-shaped. Yeah, it was a crescent-shaped metal device called an airfoil, but it was named the Cloud Surf.
Yeah, it was kind of like a ninja,
Or
like
the
kind of like one of those ninja fighting fans, but then he hits the thing, it comes out, he just hops on and starts
Yeah.
flying behind. Well, if you actually want to delve into the show, one could always say that, well, you have a large bear there with a young cub flying around in a plane. But I mean, I didn't think of that as a kid. I'm just like, this is sweet.
I think it's more of a challenge to actually find a cartoon from the 80s or 90s that Zero doesn't know. Because I think everything you've thrown at him so far, he seems to be at least semi-expert at.
Oh, he even said earlier, he's like, even if I don't watch, a lot of times I just go through the wikis real quick and you can learn pretty much all the main points. You spend some time, you learn the stuff.
Yeah, that's the trouble, is that over here, we only had a very limited selection of American cartoons. And obviously...
I might have one. Kablam.
You mean Kablam that was part of all that was very limited in the 1990s, that they basically had 2 or 3 showings of on the show, and it was just a very cheesy-ass skit, Kablam?
Was that the one with Prometheus and Bob?
Yes.
Oh, my God. That Prometheus and Bob made that show. I think that may have been the only real reason to watch the show.
I should leave now.
Well, actually, no, I owe you an apology. Kablam itself was an American comedy series, but it ran for 4 seasons on Nickelodeon, and it was often animated shorts, which gave you all the characters we talked about, which was Prometheus and Bob, to say the least, were the big runners-up, and then they had the because it started on all that, and then it went to its own show. And so it did have the character skits. So it's basically kind of like Laugh-In, except for it was kind of like a cross between Laugh-In to me and Liquid Television, but it was more aimed for kids.
Well, exactly. It kind of seems like, what was it? It's kind of like more of a kid-friendly, like Robot Chicken.
Right. And yeah, and it had the 2 characters who introduced the shorts, which were Henry and June, who were the host of the show, and they had Prometheus and Bob, which always kind of freaked me out. And it ran for 4 seasons, but Action League Now was the people I was thinking of. I remember watching that because I thought that was so funny how they always melt the characters.
But dude, that's the worst way. Dude, if you were a plastic character and you had...
That's
that's the worst way to go. Right, it's literally like, I'm melting. Oh.
Yes. So, yeah. No, the reason I know so much about these kind of things is not only do I have a passionate love, but that's one of the things that I was bringing up about mythologies is Star Wars, Transformers, all these things. They play off mythologies and archetypes of certain things for a reason. And they are, and like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, they're the modern gods of Greece and Rome to us, to an extent, for characters in literature. This isn't to get away from, to take away from anything that is in the printed word otherwise. But again, we've run out of so many ideas. We just continually are rehashing things, and we're not getting any better at it. And that's because we're not giving enough time between the two.
Well,
between the two.
Zero, let me ask you this. And again, I have not seen The Last Jedi yet, but do you feel it's that they got away from those archetypes is one of the reasons why the film to you just kind of sucked, or it wasn't all that good?
No, I think everything that I think I said that they wasted the characters, they wasted the character potential of development and growth, and the plot lines and the storylines were inferior. They had all this, as bad as The Force Awakens is to me, they had a lot of potential. They could have. I really wanted The Last Jedi to be something good, but they wasted too much shit, and it's all razzle dazzle.
One scene, they could do the whole movie without it.
About the subplot of Rose and Finn in the fucking casino, because that goes nowhere.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That was pointless.
Well, let me ask you this: do you feel that in the new Star Wars trilogy they came out with, did they really establish any like prominent archetypes? Because I'm trying to think through, and at least from the first 2 movies of the sequels that they've now come out with, I don't really remember something overly like, or at least a traditional archetype.
Well, I always felt that Rey.
Oh yeah, no, I kind of felt
Rey,
that, but it's like you said, they didn't really quite flesh that out. It kind of
No, let me answer the question.
Yep.
Rey's archetype isn't along the same path as Luke Skywalker's was. Rey's archetype is that of a woman who wouldn't say Electra, but I would say there are a lot of Greek women in Greek mythology that she represents, that she could be portrayed as, more along the lines of Amazons, not specifically Wonder Woman, but to be an independent woman that can be depended upon, trustworthy, respected, cared about, and yet can still have the feminine side without the masculine side overpowering it. And be a strong warrior, kind of like Xena in a way, without the killing.
Like more of Xena
without the killing.
Yeah.
So, but Rey, she could have went the Xena route. She could have even went the Gabrielle route, but they wasted everything. That's the problem. It doesn't matter now.
Well, the point I was going to make was, do you feel like they kind of more went like a Xena rather than like an Athena? So basically, kind of like almost like a demigod versus like a god, and as well as far as archetypes go.
I think with Rey, it doesn't really matter. I think they tried, but they failed. They wanted to do the whole girl power thing, but this ain't the fucking 1990s. Girl power doesn't, and I don't want to sound bad saying this, but girl power was never really a thing. Yeah, it's a false site. When the Spice Girls did it, and I can't believe I'm making this references, they were just goofing on everybody. They used that as a catchphrase, and to not necessarily to not be a strong independent woman or an independent woman at all, that I don't need no man. They were basically doing it to say, hey, we're a girl group, we can stand on our own 2 feet, we can have fun doing it, don't take shit seriously. If you like our music, great. The problem is they blew up too damn fast, too damn quick. With Rey, people try to use, it's more feminazi power.
I think they're trying to force her character. Power. They're trying to force her character in a new movie.
Well, I don't know. Well, I'm going to go on mute here and check something.
Well, we were talking a little bit about that earlier, and I think kind of the consensus we have is, at least for the newer Star Wars movies they've been releasing recently, they seem to be coming out with them too quickly, and it seemed like it's kind of like you said, man. They were kind of trying to force the movie, at least with the one that just came out, kind of trying to force certain things in there. Like if they had to let it develop a little bit more organically, they maybe wouldn't have, I don't know, had some. Basically, it comes down to, it seems like everyone loves to buy, but nobody likes to get sold.
Oh, yes.
So it's like, yeah, Star Wars. It's like, okay, I love Star Wars. I want to go see that. And so you want to go see it, and as long as they put on a good movie, it's like, okay, maybe it's not perfect, but I could enjoy that. Whereas if they're trying to push maybe a specific agenda down someone's throat, then in that case, it's like, okay, yeah, I like Star Wars, but you're trying to just push something upon me, and just, it's not organic.
For me, The Last Jedi, it was too much fillers.
Okay, so basically, we were kind of talking about, it seemed like they had a lot of wasted potential.
Yeah, I mean, they really wasted.
Do you?
If it was a music CD, it would be 12 tracks. So 12 tracks total, 10 tracks of filler, 2 fat tracks of moderate shit you could tolerate, and no killer. But basically, Rey's archetype is to be akin to Luke Skywalker, a journey to be a hero, but they're wasting it because they're not giving her any character development. They're not giving her a nemesis. They're not giving her even a psychological deficiency to battle and overcome. Not even an inferior. They're not even giving her an inferiority complex. They're not giving her an Electra complex. They're not giving her anything. Just go out and do. This is why they call her Mary Sue, because she can go out and do anything without reason. It's like, well, bullshit. You can't do that.
No training,
Princess
no
Leia
nothing.
was the hero archetype of a different level because she was the strong independent woman. She didn't really need Han Solo. She grew to like him and love him and respect him along the way, but that took 3 movies.
Yes.
She was a gal who could use a blaster.
Yeah, so she was more of the Athena type, and Athena in mythology still cared about people, still cared about mankind, and even though whatever she was and all that kind of good stuff, she was the scholar, and she wanted people to be able to connect and get in basically believe in her as their deity, but she didn't want them helpless either. Athena valued intelligence and all that good stuff. That's what Princess Leia was. She valued the potential intelligence and good of Han Solo and of Luke and of everybody else. She had faith in people, even if shit blew up in her face 99% of the time, like it did with Landa Calrissian, to say the least. They're not doing that with Rey. They kind of did that with Jyn Erso. They gave Jyn Erso a mass character development where she was actually kind of unlikable to where you were like, God damn it, you're going to blow her up on the beach? No! You don't want that because she grows as a character in a movie, which is still too short of time to do so, but they're not doing that with Rey. And hell, this is the reason I bust on Star Wars, the current movies, because Captain Phasma, she could literally be the Callisto to raise Xena, if nothing else, but they really wasted that shit.
But she had more movie time than Darth Maul.
Well, no, and so the finer prints in the chat, he says Greek mythology is about the imperfection of man as reflected upon by the gods. The gods were imperfect themselves. And I would like to point out, if you look at, so Game of Thrones, The Song of Ice and Fire, yeah, the books have been out for like 20 years since the first book was written. But that is a smash hit on HBO. And if you look at the characters, they're all flawed. If you look at what they're doing now with Star Trek, Star Wars, these characters no longer are flawed. These characters start at day one with all the skill sets they need. There's no struggle. Yeah. There's nothing there. Is that why Game of Thrones is doing so well? And these other shows that have
I don't know if Game of Thrones
a name for themselves,
but yeah, well, that's the point you bring. That's the best point you could bring up is they start out with their given skill set. Rey is supposed to be this generation's Luke, but it doesn't work because she has everything. Luke had nothing. He came across the droids with the Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. Lost his, tried to say, I got to decide if I want to be loyal to the family here, which he was. And then he realized Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen were dead. And he says, I've got nothing leaving me here now. He started on his journey. He says, I want you to train me to be a Jedi like my father. He wanted that. He went through the trials and tribulations. And by the time he fought Darth Vader in the third movie, he still was not technically a full trained Jedi.
No.
Let's everybody remember that. But he still had massive character growth. He still had to earn his skill set to use a lightsaber. He had his imperfections in spades with his attitude towards the dark side, and he had a bit of an ego too. He's thinking, I'll never fall to the dark side. Well, whatever. That's the problem with Rey. They can't mimic that if nothing else because she doesn't have those issues. They made her a Mary Sue. She's I have all the skill sets. I'm like, well, how? Okay, great. We've had characters start out with all skill sets, and then we've seen how they've got them, or they've fallen on their ass, and they had to restart and rebuild themselves, and they became even better. But they're not doing this. They wasted that opportunity in The Last Jedi, with Rey at least.
Well, in The Force Awakens, I mean, didn't she do all that shit in the ship and everything, and she was going around scavenging, and she was able to do a pretty good job. So didn't she have a decently strong base to begin with? And then, like you said, somehow superpowers.
Yeah, how'd she learn the Force? Every character in the Star Wars universe, on a certain level, is Force sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell people this right now: Han Solo could never do 99% of the shit that Luke could do. But I can guarantee you he knew how to use a lightsaber, not because Luke ever taught him. If he did, we don't know. But because he had probably seen Obi-Wan, he's probably seen people use a lightsaber, so he knows what they're about. And it's a basic tool, but you still have to have some kind of understanding of how to wield a lightsaber. You can't just go all willy-nilly and float around. He looked at it, on in Empire Strikes Back, and he's basically like, "What the fuck do I do with this?" And then he learned how to turn it on. He knew not to have it pointed out towards people, and then he sliced open the tauntaun, immediately turned the damn thing off because he was afraid of it. But he was force sensitive enough to understand how to wield a lightsaber. Not every character can do that. There are people in the Star Wars universe that don't the fuck to do with it. They're looking at the lightsaber, which is this great utensil to use, and they're looking like, this is a fucking paperweight to me. What the fuck am I using this for?
Wait,
as opposed
also,
to a blaster rifle.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't you supposed to gather the materials yourself to make your own lightsaber as like part of your development process? For some people,
yes. Yeah.
Granted, Luke had the
And
exception
that-
because
and
of all the things he already went through, but that's the point.
No.
They said he had so much growth he didn't need that.
I think building your lightsaber is the last step to become an actual Jedi.
Yes. And because you actually have to build one from scratch, you have to hunt down a kyber crystal, which is attuned to you. And while Luke was given Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, he didn't keep it for long, by the way. He didn't know how to wield it, and that's why he got his hand taken off. And this is the same lightsaber that Han Solo was like, okay, what the hell am I doing with this paperweight? Oh, it's turned on. Great. I'm going to slice this open, keep Luke warm, and build the thing. Fuck it, get over there. He never used the lightsaber ever again. Nope. And when Luke lost his and lost his hand, he said, okay, I got to get a new hand. And he goes, well, part of my training is to build my own lightsaber, which is why his lightsaber looked different and why I had a green kyber crystal blade as opposed to a blue one. Rey was just given Luke's old lightsaber, which was technically Anakin's, apparently. How they ever got their hands on it, I don't know. And she just started fucking using it, and like, you're going up against Kylo Ren, who has been a trained Sith apprentice, and you're holding your own how? Bullshit. Okay, fine. Explain to us in the next movie how you have the capability of doing this. Never did it. That's wasted potential right there.
Well, let me ask you this, Zero. Do you think maybe they were going for the whole, she had that whole calling out to her of the lightsaber, kind of that Luke-esque thing where, like, this is your destiny. Is this the way the Force is guiding you type of thing? Or
I don't know. I don't write their fucking scripts these days.
It doesn't sound like they indicated at all if that was what they were going
No, they didn't. And that's why I said she's a Mary Sue, and she's a wasted character. Because as I've stated, we've seen characters. I'll bring this out. I'll make a comparison here. The Punisher. That's a very broad comparison, by the way. When we initially see the Punisher, whether it's in a movie, whether it's in the comic books, or whether it's in the TV show, we know he can use a lot of type of guns and kill people many different ways. And he's like, oh, he's an expert in this. No, he learned that. But they've always
that's his job, yeah.
That's his job. They've always gone in the backstory. Where's the backstory for Rey knowing how to wield this shit? It's in the next movie. And I'm like, I don't give a shit if it's in the third movie. You had an opportunity to express it in this movie. You failed.
Do you think if, rather than trying to encompass a new trilogy just for the sake of trilogy, if they broke it into maybe like 5 movies over the course of like a decade or something like that, well, then again, you might deal with, like you said, some of the cast members are getting up there too. So, like, do you feel like if they had more time, like an extended version?
I think if they stretched it out over 4 movies as opposed to a trilogy, they could do so much more. But they're trying to throw so much into the first 2 movies out of the trilogy, this so-called new trilogy, that they're wasting everything left and right. And we had the same problem with the prequels, but we knew Anakin was it was the story of Anakin's rise and fall to become Vader. We knew that was going to happen. We just went along the journey to see how things were put in place to make it happen, which is why the Clone Wars cartoon exists, because that expands upon it.
Yeah.
That takes place between the second movie and the third movie. So if people say, oh, I don't get it, why is there so much, how did you go from this in the second movie, third movie? Hey, there's that material over there you can watch. Otherwise, just enjoy the movies and shut up. They're wasting characters. I will always reiterate this until further notice. They are wasting characters in this new trilogy, and they're not impressing me as a person who actually likes stories and mythologies and legends.
Do you feel that maybe this is kind of like they're suffering from like what happened to Lord of the Rings, where they're trying to cram like The Hobbit? They took one book and turned it into 3 movies, whereas Lord of the Rings, you took an entire trilogy and literally put each book into a whole movie. Like, they didn't even talk.
Lord of the Rings was never. I'm going to make this clear. Lord of the Rings was never a trilogy. It was a book separated in 3 parts, and its its original run was printed as such. Only later on, to make more money, did they break it into 3 parts, the 3 big chapters. So while the films may be a trilogy, the story was never a trilogy. The Hobbit was never a trilogy.
So they just did it to make
was
more
never
money.
a trilogy.
Yeah.
But when Peter Jackson took over, when Peter Jackson made the movies, that there's no way in hell you couldn't do a trilogy, because who's going to sit through a fucking 9-hour movie?
No one would.
Exactly. And remember, think about all the stuff that they had to cut out, even in the extended edition, which throws a little more back in to tell the story and keep it flowing. Think about how much they had to cut out when Peter Jackson did the movies so they could actually make the movie trilogy. And that's fine. That's the way it goes, and I agree with that. But I don't know. I think The Hobbit should have been 2 movies.
Yeah.
Because it's 1 book, and it's very detailed, and it's very well written, and it's a damn good story. But it didn't need 3 movies.
But didn't they just want to make more money?
Yeah, they did. Warner Bros. Wanted to make more money off of that. Or whoever distributed it wanted to make money. That's what I said. We're doing a trilogy, and I'm like, why? And they got caught because they added in Legolas and a couple other characters that weren't even in the book.
So that
it
was.
out.
I never actually read the original, but I remember seeing the old cartoon, the original one from the 70s or whatnot. And I'm like, I don't remember any of that.
Yeah, that's a very edited version of the book, and there's only so much Ralph Bashkin could do with the animation at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, didn't DC also have this problem with the movies with, I think, the Justice League or Wonder Woman, where they just couldn't get the balance of how many movies they should jam it in, where they just kind of suddenly rushed it on how the Justice League was formed?
yeah, their problem is they if they would have bounced off the Nolan Batman films, they would have already had backbone starting out from there. But their problem is they're trying to mimic the Marvel universe, starting with Iron Man, leading up to the Avengers and so forth. That's their problem. But that's for another.
Such a bunch of faggots.
We know you are, but what am I?
What's going on, brother?
What's up,
Hey,
Pat?
how's it going?
Hey.
Hello, Mr.
Howard.
That's what the issue is with all of that. So I'm gonna get out of here. Let you guys have your discussion because I've been on here far too long. Cabbage, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah,
Thanks for
okay.
having me on, Mad Dodge. Everybody
Yeah,
have a good
thank
night,
you.
and I'll be hiding out in the chat.
Take
Good
care,
to talk to you,
Jared.
brother.
See you later.
What's going on, Mr. Cabbage Patch?
Anyway, yes, back to what I was saying. You're all faggots.
We
Thank
love you too.
Cabbage. We love you too. Exactly. You're the head faggot, though. You're our leader.
Well. I hope I can do you proud.
You're the
I'm
faggot king.
sure you will.
They'll
All
do better
right.
than me.
Now that we've
We've
evolved
made-
Mad Dodge, where we going, brother?
I was going to make sure
We've
that
touched on traps. We've touched on the frogs.
Yep. I listened in
right.
at the beginning. I told you were gay halibuts. That nobody responded.
Hey, just for the halibut.
Yes. See? Somebody gets the joke.
So, anything new going on over in the UK there, Cabbage and Magic Bullets? Bollocks, sorry.
Yeah, I've barely paid any attention to anything over Christmas. Nothing whatsoever. It's just been food and drinking, really.
Did that turkey get to you? All the whatever that makes you sleepy?
Oh, the dopamine. Yeah,
The
tryptophan.
tryptophan?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't have turkey.
No.
So, no. No, I mean, I live on my own. Imagine a whole fucking turkey. Jesus. just
Get a
living that
duck.
bloody thing.
Get a duck
Yeah,
or a pheasant.
I do like a goose occasionally.
Ooh, this is good.
Yeah, I don't think anything has happened over here that I've noticed in the last couple of days. I would have thought it'd be
Christmas.
perfect excuse for them to start burying all the usual bad news that they want to get rid of before the new year.
It's exactly what, this is the point, isn't it? Silly season for Christmas.
Well, Christmas is the perfect time to throw everything under the carpet when no one's looking.
Well, that's what
the
they're doing
problem.
with. Why do you think all of that catastrophe fuck with Brexit is happening just before, and then they can, and then they can resurrect
Oh,
it
what if we
afterwards.
don't want to do it? Let's roll it under the carpet, even though the public
Exactly.
said yes.
Yeah,
we're
just
doing
come
it.
up with a statement on Friday afternoon. Everyone goes away.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So
Very skilled
speaking,
technique.
so speaking of lack of things happening, apparently a number of very prominent tweeters have not tweeted in a while. What's going on with that?
Sadiq Khan's tweet police.
It's easy.
I'm hoping that it's some
They have
kind of group
lives.
suicide.
That's unfortunate.
Oh, don't piss on my dream.
No,
It's
I'm
either,
just going with because I did
it's either,
I did get linked to a channel and they did mention that certain very prominent political figures, some folks in Hollywood, that since Trump signed that executive order about a week or so ago, they're not really saying much.
Wait, the executive order was signed yesterday, or are we talking about a different executive order?
Or at least
it's a suicide pact.
Yeah.
Well, I thought he had actually
I know,
drafted and
I read-
actually then signed it yesterday.
They're probably finally moving to Canada.
Well, that's the interesting thing. No,
Well, at least we know where they are if we want to firebomb all the cucks.
No, they've all been rendition to a special Twitter account.
Well, they will have safe haven in Ontario where they can't be misgendered. So there is some truth to that.
Well, part of me has been just waiting. I'm like, okay. I didn't think after the election, it's like, yeah, you don't put your political opponent in jail, but it's like, if they really did commit a crime and they really are going after you, accusing of you of things, and you are the president of the United States and have all this information, it's like, oh, as soon as the Clintons leave the country, it's like, well, that might say something. I could be wrong. I have no idea, but it's just interesting.
Maybe they're finally donating to Haiti to just burn the money.
It'll be a tax dodge of some kind. You know, new residency, new tax laws, all that kind of stuff. It'll be for the foundation. Keep all that cash nice and safe and sound.
I think just hang out with Julian Assange.
I'm sure they're heading off to Switzerland to make a big deposit.
I thought they'd be going over to Saudi to stay in Huma's second home, wouldn't they?
Get killed off?
Well,
Oh boy.
they did grant asylum to Idi Amin, didn't they? So they'll probably let him.
Well, I don't think Saudi Arabia was a big fan of Iraq, and I still remember Bill Clinton launching a whole shit ton of Tomahawk missiles over there. So I think they might be safer in Iraq, Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
Well,
not as long as they don't ask for their money back.
You don't get many people in the summer season holidaying in Saudi Arabia. So now they'd be much better off in somewhere like St. Moritz or Monte Carlo.
So I actually do have one last story we can cover. I've been going about 3 hours, so this will probably be the last story.
Let's wrap it up, man. What we got?
All right. So this comes from the Daily Star out of the UK. China's hypersonic ultimate doomsday weapon, and it could wipe out the U.S. in one shot. What they're talking about is the Dongfeng 41, DF-41, the next generation of nuke being developed for the People's Liberation Army. It has been in development for 30 years. It's capable. It's capable of hypersonic.
More likely to shoot them than it is anyone else.
Well, listen, Cabbage. It's capable up to Mach 25. And
so they say. I don't believe that. There's a certain Mach number you can't go over. Yeah, so they say. It's fucking China, for God's sake. You can't go over a certain Mach number anyway. The materials just melt. Like, the wings.
Well, fair enough. What if they develop new synthetics, man? Dude, they have a lot of money. They have a lot of money and a lot of smart people.
Well,
they're fucking intelligent.
Well, the other thing is, they're not very creative, though. It's like, the
they're very
Japanese back in
creative.
the 70s.
Yep.
They're in production sort of cycle at the moment, like the Japanese were sort of post World War I. Up until around the 70s, Japanese products were a joke because they were poor quality generally. It's all plasticky. They weren't. They were good at the sort of basic science, but they weren't very creative. Then they suddenly started blossoming with the actually learning the technology rather than just producing it. The Chinese are in that phase now where they're not just producing, but they're starting to create their own technologies. But they're not anywhere close to like Mach 24. And you put something like Mach 24, that's the equivalent of you'd have to have those like ceramic tiles that they have on the front of the.
Have you seen their oboe phones?
Yeah,
their oboe phones are awesome.
I think China is more adept at copying and improving technology than they are at creating new technologies.
Oh,
yeah, Japan was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Well, no, wait a minute, you guys. Wait a minute. All right, so China's military are alleged to have tested a nuclear weapon at least 8 times since 2012. The weapon is believed to carry 10 nuclear warheads. Seek out independent targets. That's from one warhead.
So it's a multi-stage hypersonic missile.
That's
Yeah,
right.
That's the same as an intercontinental ballistic missile has multiple warheads. You know, up to like 16, I think, in the latest.
Well, according to
ones.
Wikipedia, as an
And they're all
operational range
independently.
between 12 to 15,000 kilometers.
Well,
It's pretty far.
That's a good
That'll
range,
reach
assuming the world also rotates.
Yeah.
I
That'll
can't
reach anywhere in the world.
see. Trouble is, once you got this sort of stuff, I mean, fine, you got first strike capacity, but that really doesn't mean much unless you've got enough to fire at everyone else that is in alliance together.
Yeah.
You're going to have to hit
Before getting
everybody
destroyed
simultaneously.
yourself. That's
Precisely.
why mutually assured destruction. Yeah, it's like
Exactly.
that's why.
So it seems like a massive investment into a worthless item.
Well, or I'm just saying, I do remember earlier this year, Vladimir Putin did acknowledge, he's like, yes, we may not be as strong as America, but we have developed countermeasures. And in this point, he referenced their own hypersonic missile. So don't Russia and China do a lot of trade?
They do.
If China has a lot of money and a lot of smart people.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No, I mean, this is the thing, though. The idea of hypersonic missile. I don't know. You know, it's a hypersonic nuke. I can understand like the first ones were hypersonic. They were air-to-sea missiles. You know, take out ships and things. So the idea was it would get through and destroy the aircraft carrier before, they knew what was going on. And then they could come in and pick off the other ships.
Oh,
that was the original one. And I can understand that being used for hypersonic, but I don't understand what benefit the hypersonic thing does really with a nuclear weapon.
As far as I know, that's to basically get into the higher part of the Earth's atmosphere. So basically, you have no drag, and then when the missile comes back down, it achieves just such a speed that even basically any type of missile countermeasures we may have, you're still shooting at something that's traveling so incredibly fast that you could miss.
I don't know, because each individual warhead, they're individually guided, but they don't have their own engines. Yeah? Each warhead can be guided, but it's guided by fins. The maximum it can fall at is terminal velocity, and terminal velocity is a fixed velocity.
But what it kind of sounds like what Mad Dodge was explaining is this is a missile that does each have its own warhead, but does each warhead then have, it has to have some type of propulsion after that.
No, it just needs fins. That's the guidance, is the fins. Because you're at such a high altitude, even a small movement in a fin, I mean, but it's coming from such a distance. A lot of...
But what if it has propulsion? Like, I think like the part of the hypersonic missile is, yes, it goes up into the upper atmosphere, but then it still has propulsion on the way down to accelerate beyond terminal velocity.
Yeah, well, what I think is they're trying to avoid the missile defense shield, right? That would be a way to get around the missile defense. Not only are you going supersonic, but you're dividing the warhead into 10 separate nuclear warheads, and then they are accelerating. How are you going to use your missile defense shield to take that down? You're not.
But that's the same as every ICBM, mate. An ICBM, the warhead itself contains like multiple missiles, and it goes up pretty much into up into the stratosphere and comes back down. It's the same thing. It's no different. The only difference is the speed as to how quickly it can get, from A to B. The concept's still the same. It's still multiple warheads on a missile system. Not sure what the hyper thing really brings to it, apart from unless it was a first strike capacity. But once again, like I say, then you'd have to be sure that you could wipe out everybody else that was an ally.
120 to 240 nuclear warheads to hit the United States.
Yeah.
That's within 2 salvos because they have the launchers and then they have one reload per I believe 6 launchers, no, 12 launchers.
Well, it's interesting.
That would be a lot of destruction, but well, here's the thing: the United States, we spend $750 billion every year in the military. You're spending that much money, it's like, all right, we better be able to like have the end world button if that shit comes down to it, because that deters other folks from doing it.
We spend more than the top 10 countries combined on a military defense.
most of them are allies.
No, your budget. Nobody else. No, that's you spend your own money on your.
Oh no, 100%. What I'm saying is those other.
You don't pay for
those
ours,
other
you know.
10 countries. We spend as much of. A lot of them are our allies.
Second place is China.
Yeah.
And they're allies, technically. So most of them are
Yeah.
allies, could be a skewed wordage.
Well, exactly. And the other thing is, yeah, we owe them a bunch of money. So if we tell them to go fuck themselves, that's going to kind of screw them over too.
Oh yes.
Well, if they call in their loans, and they could fuck you up too with massive hyperinflation.
We could, but
Well, no. China doesn't
No,
want
that's a
you to
horrible
do
way to
that
say it.
because China's competitive advantage right now, even though they are starting to develop their own economy, is being cheap. If you make the dollar weak, that's going to make China more expensive due to currency risk. China does not want that to happen. That's why they manipulate the yuan to stay at 6 or 7 yuan per dollar. So they would never
It's
do
also
that.
why they're buying. It's also why they're grabbing as much gold from around the world as they possibly can.
Well, they're
Exactly. That's the next point I was about to bring up. The fact that they're buying up all the gold along with the entire country of Venezuela.
Because they're smart.
Yes.
Well.
And I'm saying it's smart of them to make sure that the Chinese yuan stays weak. So they would never try and encourage hyperinflation.
So how is what's going on with China? Like, are they still manipulating as much? I haven't really been following it.
No. They manipulate their currency so it stays weak.
What I'm
Because
saying is, have they continued doing that, or has we seen a shift in the currency?
No. It's a small shift. They only adjust it when it goes outside of the boundary. The boundary between $6 and $7 per Chinese yuan is a big boundary, so they don't have to do it that often.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's cooking the books.
No, they're not.
Well,
they're not actually cooking it, but basically they have the ability to say, hey, we have a bit of a deficit here. We're just going to change this a bit here to fill in the gap.
No, they don't change it because every country in the world or major country has other countries' currencies and cash reserves.
Yeah, they have a basket.
China has a lot of reserves. They have more reserves than anybody else because they're the country with the healthiest quote-unquote balance sheet.
Yeah.
So if the Chinese yuan becomes way too strong, they're just going to sell more yuan and print more money, weakening it. Or if the Chinese yuan becomes too weak, they just suddenly buy more dollars. It's still cheating, but it's not as dirty as people think of it to be.
Well, they're just big and
it's creative accounting. I'm just saying it's creative accounting.
Oh, 100%, man.
It is, but it's better than just constantly borrowing.
Well, the thing is, you have the Chinese economy. They have they make stuff for everywhere in the world. So they just have constant goods they can sell. Plus, they have over 1 billion people. Plus, they're also very smart. So they're like, okay, if all of a sudden our economy gets very strong, that's good. We're going to buy a lot of things because our currency goes farther at this moment. If all of a sudden, our economy starts to go down or whatever, we just buy dollars. Even by them specifically buying dollars, they're kind of weakening their currency because they're promoting ours.
Yeah, think about it, right? The Chinese haven't really even internalized their economy yet.
They're starting.
They have an awful lot of these cities. They're starting to, which is why the people who called them those ghost cities, that was preparation. They were preparing for the mass migration of people out.
Yeah, that highway with 16 lanes and exit ramps. They're preparing for it.
Yeah, they're preparing for. There's going to be a massive migration of people out of the agricultural into the industrial and into the cities and everything. That's why they've actually pre-created cities ready for the migration that's going to happen. And that's when they internalize their economy. So if ever there was a problem with the economy or whatever, wouldn't matter one iota to them.
Yeah, they're building those cities because they're expecting everybody to move into them. But there's
be the
a big old
biggest
housing bill
migration of people in history.
They do have a huge emerging middle class right now.
Oh,
they
yes.
They do.
Look at KFC China; it's booming.
Yeah, and you think about it, they still got about 400-500 million people that they're looking to migrate in the next sort of within a decade into these, into the urban areas.
All right,
that's the equivalent of the entire population of America.
So let's bring this back to the missile. So yes, the U.S. spends more than the next 10 countries. And I was talking about how even though most of them are considered allies, that may not be the case 5 or 10 years from now. So what are our final thoughts on the missiles? Are we saying, all right, it just reinforces mutually assured destruction, or is there something beyond that?
Well, could be part of just the, an advancement in the overall technology. I mean, most technologies get born out of the military, don't they? So the hypersonic technology could be a developmental stage that then goes into the civilian, and we end up with hypersonic aircraft.
Well,
I mean,
isn't
like
a
you
lot
said,
of
the
this-
Concorde.
Isn't this a lot of this in response to like our increasing of our nuclear capabilities?
Part of it, yeah, especially with North Korea. And
That's
that's
North
getting
Korea.
Yeah, nothing's gonna happen between us and North Korea.
Yeah, I don't buy that nothing will happen when it comes to North Korea, but that's a topic for another day. The kids are starting to cry behind me. Any last thoughts? And my last thought, I'll throw it out there first. It's been 1 year on YouTube. It's been an awesome year. I've met some really cool YouTubers. A lot of you guys are a part of that. Some of you don't have channels, but yeah, thank you everybody for a great year. Many more to come, I hope. And you hear the kids, so I'm going on mute. And last thoughts.
Thank you, Matt.
Peace out, Mad Dodge.
Yeah.
You shouldn't electrocute your children like that. Bad.
Can I just say one last thing about these nukes? It might tie in very nicely with what Zero was saying earlier on about the only way we're going to get our culture back in the West is by complete annihilation of the actual countries that we currently live in. So if China and America do go to war, and we might end up with nuclear fallout and billions of people dying, one day we might actually get TV shows and films we actually want to watch again.
I have faith in the 90s, man. I think we can reawaken it.
And yeah, I'll say until then, we can always watch the Blazing Saddles again.
If only. If only.
I love the tool scene from that and the farting scene.
The whole movie.
Magic Balls. I thought you were going to say maybe we could all get back to reading a book, something enlightened. But no, you had to go back to TV shows.
No, that would
you had to return us back to retarded.
That's the progression, mate. You get there eventually. We go back to enlightenment first, then we can fuck it all up again.
I hate that, but often before creation comes destruction.
Yeah. Exactly.
True. Yes.
Every empire has to fall.
And they all do eventually.
Yeah, but I kind of wanted America to last, a little bit closer to Rome. Yeah.
America will
we
still
got a
be
good
there.
200 years in there. Not everyone can say that.
Right.
Oh, America, the history that disappeared on the back of a stamp.
I hope enough of the swamp drains that we can start getting it a little back to how we were.
Hey, you're always welcome back in the Commonwealth anytime you boys want to rejoin.
Yeah, we will kill the fatted calf and everything.
Hey, at least we speak the language. Unlike some
don't push it.
We don't have the accent.
Granted, our version is shit, but
Americans speak American.
Oh, and I can feel the xenophobia in this room now.
British speak American.
Hang on, let's just
all
all agree.
He's biased for that.
Hang on, we can all agree on one thing, can't we? Is that we might have a few differences between us, our two countries in the Atlantic, but at least we can all agree that we're all better than the French.
Yes,
that's right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
and we're
yes,
probably
100%. I'll drink to
that.
I've only just started a channel. I feel it being terminated very shortly.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained, man. I haven't made a YouTube video.
You have 100 channels. Keep making them and get one shut down, make a new one.
Well, here's the thing. As long as you go through and... Bullocks, were you the one that made that character art for Ogre's channel, the Sean Connery?
Yes, that was me.
Dude, that was a fucking good job. What were you using?
I think it was a combination of Sony Vegas, what was it? Adobe After Effects, and my own voice.
Oh. So are you?
Oh,
have you
the
have a
voice
history
of
using
fucked
that,
it up.
or?
What was that? Sorry.
Do you have a history with that software? Or?
Do you know? I've only just learned how to use it in the last 2 days.
Because I haven't used After Effects for a decade and so, and I'm actually using a Mac right now, so it actually has some decent software available. But
ooh, I love Avid Edit for Mac, but that's for like more complicated shit.
I like complicated shit. Who doesn't? But is it easy?
I use pen
Avid
and
Edit
paper.
is very easy. Yes.
Is it expensive?
That I don't know because I used it at school.
Yes.
If it doesn't include a command prompt, I'm not interested.
So I take it you butchered a few videos in your time.
I butchered a lot.
Hey, we all do. That's how we learn. Save is your friend. Multiple copies and backups.
Well, I must admit, I haven't touched a video editing software myself for about 10 years, and it was only because Ogre said, "Oh, can you make me a vid?" And it was shit. So I really had to rack my brains of something, and the fact that I just have the ability to mimic certain famous people, and the idea of advertising his channel, 1 minute of something.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the thing that kind of always got me about when I started following this quote unquote this community. I'm like, there are so many freaking talented people out here. Some of them are good at debating. Some of them are good at researching. Some of them are good at doing voiceovers. Some of them are good on cam. It's just you have all these different talents and everything. I'm like, God damn, if this shit was ever organized, I'm like, and like. Not always shitting on each other at every. You still need to shit on each other just because that's what friends do. But I feel we're too far removed with the internet. I feel like a lot of these folks that are arguing right now, like if they just hung out normally, like in real life, like on a fairly consistent basis, I don't think you'd have all this shit.
Everybody's good at something except for me. I suck at everything.
I agree with that. We probably all could get on very easily. It's just that's the it's always comes down to ego, doesn't it? It's always the main killer. Yeah.
It's just everyone likes to stroke their e-peen.
Yeah.
I don't have an ego. I don't need one. I'm far superior.
That's because you're cat.
You don't have an ego.
Left that behind me a long time ago. I elevated myself beyond an ego.
Yeah. All I care about is just finding a load of people to talk shit with and what's good, have a good laugh, and if I can, completely derail a chat.
You'll fit right in here, then, brother. You'll fit right in.
Well, see, Paul, I think you actually may have said it best earlier. I'm not sure if it was here or on Ogre's channel, but you said, I like that type of trolling because I try to embody that type of trolling myself. Where there's a line. You can walk up to that line. You lean over that line a little bit. You cause that irritation, but you're not going into like deep malice intent.
Yeah, it's the difference between tickling somebody on their sides and stabbing them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You have no like direct ill will. You're just doing it for some yucks.
That's right. Yeah, it's basically I've seen so many people over the years where the line is drawn. You know where it is. You know that you can't cross it, although you can obviously stand on it and lean over it. But some people will just go straight up to that line and bang, over their foot will go, and it's straight over, and they don't care. And they're always the ones who fuck everything up.
And that's the thing. You hit the nail with that second caveat there, man. It's like, yeah, we all will say something, and you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. And like, especially if somebody calls you out and stuff like that, like, here's the thing. If they actually didn't, you really shouldn't have said that, man. Yeah, you're more likely to say you're sorry. But if they're like, oh my God, you are a misogynist, racist, homophobe, incest, epithet, ad hominem attack here.
Right. Then you're like, fuck you.
Well, exactly. And I only say this just because, like, I used to work in sales. And they would always say, okay, you send 1,000 letters, you get a response. 1 out of 1,000. You have due by phone, you have like 1 out of like 200 something calls, you'll get a sale. All of a sudden with sales, dude, I was direct sales. I was a dude that would knock on your door on a fucking Saturday morning that you never wanted to see, that was trying to earn your business back because the cable company fucked you before, but we're better now. Like, I was one of those guys, man. But here's the thing: your personal connection, that face to face. They literally sent us out because they already spent money on advertising, and we were getting not just another customer, we were getting basically more market share as well. So our customers, I'll be straight up, man, they paid us freaking well. But it's just one of those things where when you have that direct human to human contact, you're going to be more likely to succeed, and or if you have a common goal, achieve that goal without delving into chaos.
No, I'm sorry. Well, it doesn't work with me because there's nothing slimier. No kind of person I would least like to be around than a salesman.
I'm a former salesman.
I'm saying, last thing I want to do is invite it into my house. It's like vampires.
It's all right. Technically, I'm a maintenance guy now. So
yeah,
Even worse.
I don't know if Cabbage is the same, but at the place I work, we have a particular name for the salesman, and it's Granny Sellers. And it really is. And it is because they would fucking sell their own granny given half a chance.
Yeah.
Dude, great money, but dude, I fucking hated my life. And that's I never thought of myself as a good salesman. I always thought I just got up.
You just said I was a good salesman. Make your mind up. I didn't say myself, but I was a great salesman.
I always got along well with most people. And if I just spent
were you on commission?
Oh, of course, man. And
yeah, so was I. It's hard. It's stressful, man. You don't know what you're going to make from day to day.
Well, here's the thing: to do a job and to base your job off of, okay, I can sell you this $25,000 roof. I could sell you the same roof for $20,000, and the only difference is I'm making less money. And it's like, okay, yeah, some folks, they can afford that, but then you're sitting at some folks' houses and stuff like that, and it really shouldn't matter who you are, but especially somebody where they're putting 2 kids through college, they're trying to pay bills and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's like, I get it. Folks tend to act in their own self-interest, but it's just, I don't know, and that's why I don't really hate people. I really just hate the system, the game.
Yeah, I can sort of see why you're a former salesman. You've obviously still got a functioning conscience in that brain.
And I don't want to be paying for salesmen's coke habits. I really don't.
I did have a coke habit when I was
habits.
Come to think of it.
I'll pay for the meth habits.
Well, here's the thing. Anybody
at least let him have the hookers.
I get that. I understand. These things happen. We all make mistakes. None of us are without sin.
You tried it, and you suddenly realized you're too much of a human being to actually, tolerate doing that job.
Right.
It's one of those things where I don't mind doing it, and I believe it can be done right. And there are some companies where, as long as you're doing it right, it's just. I think my problem was a lot of the jobs I've had in corporate sales. It was more of like I like to learn the job, so I do more research. So it's like, okay. I actually found out, some of the things they're having to say, because the thing that bothers me is when I'm scripted. If I'm scripted and I have to say these things, I'm like, this story's a load of crap. Well, you're not lying about the product. I'm like, yeah, but I'm still telling a bullshit story. Right. So it's like, that bothers me.
Yeah.
And whoever writes some scripts are horrible. If I could ad-lib, it's way better. Way better. And, I never had a problem with sales unless I was selling a shit product. If I was selling you something that was worthwhile and a good product, then I didn't have no qualms about it. Now, if I'm trying to sell you bullshit, that's where I drew the line at. I couldn't do that.
See, that's that conscience again, isn't it?
Well, it's more of like, okay, I can sell you this replacement window for $900. All while knowing the actual cost of the product and everything, and realizing, I can go out and buy some Anderson 400 series for $200, pay one of my buddies $200 to do a full AMA certified installation, and get $100 commission, maybe my exact same commission, basically because I could do the work myself and make even more money. Versus, okay, I'm actually saving the customer or the person I know this much money, and I can sleep at night.
Right.
Yep.
I don't think you had any problems sleeping at night.
No, well, hey, don't get me wrong, dude. I've had companies fly it, basically pay for vacations at Mexico and stuff like that. They treat folks right, some of those companies, man. But it's just like, it is what it is, man.
Man, sales is, you got to sell your soul. I mean, that's why it's sales, right? The first sale that you do is of your soul.
Well, that's the thing. I think there's a better way.
I don't have a soul.
All right. Well, why I have a little bit of silence, I'm going to end the broadcast, and you guys can go ahead and bullshit in the after show. But I gotta chop some wood before it gets too dark, so I gotta go, guys. This has been this has been the Redeye number 64. Here's to a whole nother year on YouTube. Thank you guys, kind of.
See you in hell.
Peace out.
Later.